This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Yeah, that's been the nation. I'm going to tell you that every time.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
That is truly unbelievable.
Live from the AT&T studios in Los Angeles. Today's guests, Bleacher Report senior NBA writer Howard Beck, Colts head coach Frank Reich, former Green Beret Nate Boyer, host of NBC's America's Got Talent, Terry Crews, USC head coach Clay Helton, and now it's Rich Eisen.
Okay, everybody, welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. I'm beginning to notice here, and I'll do my best to describe it for the radio audience, Sirius XM Channel 211, but everybody here at youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, good Friday to you. Brockman wearing his finest from the Andy Reid collection, and Mike Del Tufo, good to see you right over there.
Good to see you, Rick.
Hawaii vibes.
I like it. Has TJ Jefferson just made the putting corner like literally his own area? Like, I'm seeing more and more of his things. He's now putting stuff on a grease board. Thanks for teaching me the definition of plethora. It means a lot. Is that a shout out to the wormhole that's saying that sort of thing? It's just I do like the Bulls jersey and then the Jordan security yellow slicker that's draped over the Rich Eisen Show golf bags.
Except that the last dance is over.
Yeah, and also we haven't. Cedric the Entertainer came on 3 weeks ago and he brought that big old cardboard cutout there and just leaving it there.
Yeah.
Look, it's all good because I'm in a good mood. You know why I'm in a good mood
today?
Why are you
in a good mood?
You know, and I'll explain this sort of thing here too.
I'm excited to hear this.
Because I let everybody know.
Of course. Peek behind the curtain.
And peek behind the curtain, let you know what goes on around here. The clothes that I wear, so many people in the wormhole, they remark on the sweaters. Okay, they like the sweaters, and we wonder who gets the sweaters, and all that stuff. The shirts get no love, and the reason why I kind of want to give a shout out today is the shirt that I'm wearing, because I bring everything home and I haven't really brought anything back. The system the last couple of weeks has been, just like the rest of the world. We're efforting, we're trying to, figure stuff out as we go along. This shirt I have not worn in 2+ years because it's a fitted shirt. And when I sit down right around the midsection area, I feel it. And it's uncomfortable to sit here for a 3-hour show to do that sort of thing. It does help me sit up straight. I'm wearing it today because I fit into it.
Nice, Rich.
I feel good. Feeling good.
Well done.
Just not eating very much. Panic, non-eating, and a lot of wine. That's my coronavirus diet is killing it right now. Just throwing that out there for you. I'm feeling really good about myself. And it took forever. It took 5+ years, but people are now paying attention to my Rudy hate. It's great.
It's been going on for a long time.
The Big Lead wrote about it. I'm feeling good about that. We've got also a whole host of people that's coming on this show. Love chatting with you, 844-204-RICH. Love chatting with my guests. Howard Beck's going to be first up from Bleacher Report. We'll talk hoops with Howard. Frank Reich's going to join us the minute we go on the air on NBCSN, hour 2 of our program, hour 1 of the final 2 hours of our show that's aired every single day, 1 to 3 Eastern on NBCSN. Nate Boyer is going to join us. And you know what? I'd love to make this a tradition. I love having Nate on. We've known Nate for years. He, along with Jay Glazer, are the hearts and soul of Merging Vets and Players, which is the organization where veterans and players who are retired or veterans who come back from theaters of war and are trying to figure out what to do next and how to get back into society. And they've merged, again, those two needs. Nate comes on. He's a former Green Beret, or I guess once a Green Beret, always a Green Beret. He was a snapper for the University of Texas. He would go from Texas football to Afghanistan and back. And he's a remarkable individual. And with Memorial Day coming up on Monday, I want Nate to join us and talk about what's going on in the world of Veterans Affairs. And, of course, a reminder on what we all need to do for Memorial Day. Terry Crews and then Clay Helton's going to wrap up our show and the third hour of our program talking about America's Got Talent. And And then the latest edition of Will America Have College Football? That's Clay Helton. In terms of real life stuff, did you see Dr. Anthony Fauci talking to CNN today? Did you see this?
I did not.
Okay, here's the few things that I saw. I believe was it on? I forget which feed it was on CNN. But Anthony Fauci said the following: that the first results of the vaccine testing that's coming in, the first results of the first, I guess, data that's coming in is very encouraging.
Okay.
And that if there are no stop signs, if there is nothing that would cause them to halt their work for whatever reason, or there is, look, I'm not an expert in this. If all goes according to what needs to happen, which apparently is rare, he targeted, and this is a guy, as you know, is very cautious in being cautiously optimistic, to the point where, again, I don't know why this has been politicized in our country. It shouldn't be, because the virus knows no politics, does not know how you vote, does not know what your belief is. All it knows is it's contagious, and it will find somebody if you don't take care of how you act. He is cautiously optimistic, even though, again, he's been in the firing line for being too pessimistic. He pegged December or January as the time we'd have a vaccine, which means we would have a college football season, even if it takes place in the spring. We would have a football season, even if it takes place in the spring. We'd have, one would think, a new NBA season. The question is will we have the finishing of this season? We'll have a new NHL season. Again, if these things happen.
Sounds like great news.
I know.
It's hard to get your hopes up,
on
though.
that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then also from the world of real life is the passing of Jerry Sloan.
Oh, so sad this
I
morning.
know. The longtime coach of the Utah Jazz passing away at the age of 78. And we saw a lot of Jerry last weekend in The Last Dance, because Jordan's last 2 years and last 2 championships were against the Utah Jazz, the denial of the Jazz. And as we said at the outset of The Last Dance, everybody was going to get theirs. Knicks fans, Pistons fans, Lakers fans, Magic fans, Pacers fans, Blazers fans, and then eventually at the very end, the Jazz, the Stockton Malone years that Jerry Sloan coached. And it's, we talk about just those 97 and 98 teams because they were the best.
They were great, yeah.
Of those Jazz teams. But Jerry Sloan coached 21 full seasons with the Jazz. 21 full seasons, 22 seasons in all. 15 consecutive playoff appearances for the Utah Jazz between 1989 and 2003. Only one of 4 coaches in the history of the association with 15-plus consecutive seasons with a winning record. The others are Popovich, Riley, and Phil Jackson. 5th coach in NBA history to reach 1,000 victories. Only one of 2 coaches in the history of the league to do it with one club. That's why he's in Springfield, Massachusetts, in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Or the Basketball Hall of Fame there.
Also a great player. His number is retired by the Chicago Bulls. I mean, this guy lived a full basketball life.
He sure did, man. Here's an interesting stat. When Tom Kelly stepped down as the Twins manager in baseball in 2001, he became the longest tenured head coach in American Major League sports with the current franchise. Wow. And he passed away, Parkinson's disease, which my dad had. That is not... that's just, again, something I just send my respects to the Sloan family. It must have been very difficult. Very difficult. May he rest in peace. And Howard Beck's going to join us in about 10 minutes' time. Here's what I want to ask him. Obviously, Howard has been around the Sloan years. In The Last Dance, where Sloan he went to the podium, right? After they scored 54, 56 points in that NBA Finals game, and he was wondering if that really was an accurate assessment. Like, he did not know.
Yeah, is this really the box score?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he did not know. Was that just him being cheeky, or is that him, like, not really knowing?
He kind of said the same thing after the flu game. He said, well, if Michael was sick, we didn't know.
Right. That was the other one.
Yeah. Seemed like the Jazz were the only people in the building who knew that he wasn't feeling well.
Nobody went up to Jerry before the game, hey, Jordan might not play. We're hearing Jordan might not play. Like, he didn't even know that. Nobody went up to him and said that to him.
Was he that locked in, I guess?
I'm telling you, man, coaches are so locked in.
Yeah.
It's believable, but again, the Stockton, Malone, Jeff Hornacek, Utah Jazz.
They were a great team, man. You could have made a case they should have won both those years. They could easily have back-to-back titles.
Yeah, man. It's sad. We pay our respects to him today, and Howard Beck will be joining us on that front. What was the number of 60-win teams that the Jordan Bulls dispatched? That's another thing about them. 7. You can't, right? You cannot deny them that they faced the greatest teams of their era and beat them all.
It was a weird thing. People on Twitter were talking about, the East was, their path to these championships was really weak. And
here's the crazy thing is, the argument at the time, which is strange now, the West was weak. The West was a weak conference. They would eventually deliver to the Bulls a very competitive and very good team, if not a great team, certainly with their win total. But a lot of these years, those win totals in the mind's eye of the fans was inflated because of how poor the rest of the competition in the Western Conference was. That's been totally flipped on its head.
Yeah.
Since Jordan left, you could say it
has kind of flipped.
It flipped.
Yeah. It's crazy because Seattle was a 60-win team, and then the Jazz were back-to-back 60-win teams.
Well, the Hakeem Olajuwon Rockets and then the Phoenix Suns were the teams that Jordan faced down. Those Blazers, the Magic Johnson Lakers of 1991. Those are the teams that we all just saw them vanquish, and they're great teams. And they're worthy competitors. But I just remember back in those days, the West was just hollowed out. And it led you to believe, how good is this team? Because here comes the buzzsaw of Jordan to just rip out their hearts and show it to them pumping. The only person that comes close to Michael in sports is Tiger, in terms of the people who he denied getting their shot at major championships. It took Phil a very long time to break through, as we recall.
Yeah, he was the greatest player to never win a major for
exactly.
so long.
Right. And how many greatest players to never win a championship do we talk about from the 90s because Jordan denied them?
I mean, probably a dozen Hall of Famers don't have rings because of
Barkley.
Because of him.
Right.
I mean, Barkley, Ewing, Reggie Miller.
Karl
Malone, John Stockton.
Well, did Malone get one with the Lakers?
I don't think so. I think they tried that Dream Team thing, and he...
They did, didn't they?
And then he was injured.
Karl Malone played for the Los Angeles Lakers, by the way. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. One thing we'll talk to Frank Reich about when he joins us for the Indianapolis Colts is I like to sit out here and front load the interviews for you. Frank Reich, we'll talk to him about, obviously, Phillip Rivers. We'll talk to him, obviously, about Jacob Eisen. What is the plan in their quarterback room right now? Because Jacoby, I knew what to say. Because the quarterback room is, they've got 3 people there. Brissett still. What is the plan there? The senior technology advisor that apparently is being put out in front of ownership and membership for them to vote on. This guy, by the way, I texted Mike Pereiro, who's not available today because It seems that he's got a white ball with dimples on it in front of him.
Oh, good for him.
And I asked him, I'm like, what is a senior technology advisor? His answer will be great for me to reveal later on.
Oh, he texted it back to you?
Oh, yes, he did.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
And put it all together. And would a head coach in the NFL prefer to have somebody upstairs taking a look at everything and letting the officials on the field who missed it know you should put a flag on the field? And how long does that senior technology advisor have to buzz down and let you should put a flag on the field? And what does he think of the 4th and 15?
Does he like it as much as we do? You
How
want to
does
wait?
he not? Who the hell does not like that?
It's a tremendous idea.
Now, it seems that there is some explanation here about this. It doesn't specify that a team must be trailing to attempt it. Limit of 2 tries per game, but this would open up strategic options the NFL teams will discuss next Thursday. I told you. Who will be the first coach to use it to gain a 2-score advantage, a 2-possession? As you know, we're seeing more and more coaches go for 2 to go up 9, as opposed to kicking the extra point to just go up 8, forcing another team to have to go for 2 and convert it just to tie you. But teams are now eschewing that extra point and going for 2 to go up 9. That's what's called stealing a possession, that they'll do the math.
Right.
And converting one play from the 2-yard line gives you a 2-possession advantage.
Right.
And doing the math and the risk reward, somebody right now has already crunched the numbers, figuring out one conversion from your own 25 to make it to the 40-yard line, that would give you on the spot a second possession where you don't give the ball back and you run the risk of handing a short field to the team that you're only in front of by 1 score. You're up 7. You're up 8. You then go for it from your own 25.
Right.
Would Frank Reich do something like that?
Now, does the ball go back to the 25 if you don't convert, or where you fall short?
Good question. I have the rules right here. I'm assuming it's marked where you fall short.
So say you only get 12 yards. Is the ball now on the 37 for the other team going in short field? Or does it go back to the 25?
I have it right here. Here are the rules. And as an alternative to the free kick, a team may elect to retain possession subject to the following rules. Would you care to hear this?
I would.
A team may elect to, here we can see this right here. My batteries just went out my ears, but I'll still do it anyway. A team may elect to retain possession no more than 2 times during the game. The kicking team must notify the referee of its intention to forego a kickoff or safety kick and retain possession. The referee will then notify the opponent of the scoring team's election. So in other words, you say, we're gonna go for it. And then the ref's got to run over to the opposing coach and say, okay, put your defense on the field. The ball will be spotted on the kicking team's 25. The kicking team will possess the ball with the down and distance being the 4th and 15. Line to gain is kicking team's 40-yard line. The play clock will be set to 25 seconds and winds and ready for play signal. The game clock starts on the snap, and normal NFL timing rules apply.
Okay.
So it's an
So
actually
it's a time down.
down.
It's a time down. Okay.
Standard rules for scrimmage down apply. If the offense reaches the line to gain, the result of the play is a first down, and all customary rules are in effect. If the defense stops the offense, the defense assumes possession at the dead ball spot. So that's where you mark it. If you fall, it's the 39.5-yard line. That's where you get it.
There you go. All right.
If it's incomplete, you're giving it up on the 25.
Right.
If you're throwing, because you're
Yes.
assuming we're throwing.
Of course. You're definitely throwing.
If the offense is penalized on its one scrimmage down, 4th and 15, the offense cannot elect to kick off after the penalty is enforced. Example, the kicking team may not elect to kick after incurring a holding penalty on one scrimmage down. Can't be like, well, I guess we didn't make it because the left tackle held. We'll kick now. No. Scrimmage kicks are prohibited. Nothing in this exception prohibits a team from attempting a legal onside kickoff under Rule 6. So they're not eliminating the onside kick. You can try it still.
Interesting.
You got your option.
Interesting. So can you still surprise onside, or you have to kind of announce it?
Well, I mean, what are you going to do if you're going to line up and you're bringing Tom Brady out under center? If you're Bruce Arians, right?
Patrick Mahomes tweeted yesterday about this. He just wrote 4th and 15 and then 2 crying face emojis.
Yeah, of course, because it's just...
Yeah, he knows.
That's nothing for him.
No, nothing for him.
It's a
absolutely
flick of the
nothing.
wrist, right?
Yeah. I mean, we saw the play he did against the Ravens, man. Like, it's nothing. He could do it left-handed if he wanted.
I mean, so we'll discuss this. Again, it's an interesting... There is some strategy involved, and it's not just, again, something that you assume is going to be done because somebody's desperate to try and come back and win a game. Frank Reich will be joining us on that front. Nate Boyer, Terry Crews, and also Clay Helton, all of the former Green Berets, America's Got Talent, and USC football, respectively. Joining us from Bleacher Report is their lead NBA writer, our friend Howard Beck, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Howard?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing well. How are you?
You know what? I am well, and I hope everybody in your world is happy and safe, and I'm knocking on wood for that. For you?
We're all good here. Thanks. Yeah, as I keep saying, happy to be healthy, everybody in good shape, and yet a little stir crazy, but,
Sure.
We'll take it.
Exactly. So let's get into I wasn't expecting to talk to you about Jerry Sloan today, Howard, but about a half an hour before we went on the air, news of his passing at the age of 78 reached everybody's, I guess, Twitter feed. That's the way things go in the 21st century. What's your recollection of Jerry Sloan, Howard?
Yeah, not a lot of personal interactions with him. I started covering the Lakers in the 97-98 season, and that season for the Lakers ended with the Jazz sweeping them. And so I do recall that was one of the early playoff series that I covered, and that Jerry Sloan, as a coach, as an interview subject, as in those scrums on the off days, he could be just as tough and hard nosed then as he could be on the court as coach or back during his playing days. Fortunately, we didn't have to take an elbow from him or anything, but he was just a classic old school NBA coach who he drove his players hard. He was obviously high. His value system was all about tenacious play, physical play, and when you played the Jazz, any opponent, they would always come away feeling like we just went through like a 2-hour wrestling match, and they'd complain about it and say, they're always trying to force the refs to have to do something, and they play a certain way. But that was all an extension of Jerry Sloan, and you could say that that's partially about Malone and Stockton too, and that's certainly the case. But I think about those teams, it's in the same way that we think about you can't separate Jordan and Pippen from Phil Jackson, that Malone and Stockton, it should be Malone and Stockton and Sloan, that I think those three men, their mentalities, their styles, their approach to the game meshed perfectly, and that was what created the personality of those Jazz teams that were in the playoffs, for whatever, I think 15 straight years under Sloan.
Yes.
And he had this, the basic thing with him was this. There was that crusty, kind of hard exterior, but a heart of gold beneath it. He cared deeply about his players and those around him. And, when he was away from the court, as feisty as he could be out there, he was somebody who, really made deep connections with people and cared deeply. And he really, encompassed all that full spectrum.
And we got a little glimpse of the old school nature of Jerry Sloan in The Last Dance just this past weekend when the Jazz were prominently featured because those were the last two championships of the Jordan era were at the expense of Jerry Sloan's Utah Jazz with the Mailman and Stockton and the rest, et al., where he reacted with surprise at the low total of points, what was it, 54, 56 that they had in an actual NBA Finals game, kind of using this, one would assume, as a way to tweak his team through the press, or he legitimately just was so focused on the X's and O's in each possession he didn't notice the score, which is kind of a surprise. And the other one is that he reacted with surprise that Jordan was sick. He didn't know that Jordan was sick when they mentioned after Jordan torching them in the so-called now flu game or now food poisoning game. Do you think he really didn't know those things back in the day, Howard?
Rich, I mean, other people know him better than I do, so I don't want to presume too much. I would just say my impression of him back then, covering him as a beat writer for the opposing team and being in press conferences at times with him, and then seeing some of that footage again in The Last Dance, I always took that as he's got this very subtle wry sense of humor, and he likes to deadpan things. Rick Carlisle does that a lot too, where you're kind of not sure, is he messing with me? Did he really not know that? Is he trying to mock my what's going on? And Sloan had that about him too. And so I like I said, I'm not going to claim for certain that I know this,
right?
But especially with the 54 points, how does he not know that? He's not clueless. He's not, that to me was his kind of wry sense of humor. Like, oh, gee. That bad, really? So,
how about the Last Dance, Howard? What did you pick up from it? What did you learn? Since again, it's amazing. It has been the top stories, not just in the NBA world, but in the sports world, as we're waiting for sports to restart again and get through all of this. It really, the relitigation of the '90s basketball scene has been intense, as it was to live through it and report through it. What did you glean from The Last Dance, Howard?
Well, I mean, overall, I loved it. I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. It was entertaining. It was eye-opening. It did give us some new perspectives. Look, there's not going to be some deep, dark secret that you're going to find out 20 years later, most likely. But the importance in doing something like this is to lend a different kind of perspective, and we got two elements of that. One, all the behind-the-scenes footage that we were all looking forward to, which I think absolutely delivered. There were some really interesting moments that NBAE had captured that had been sitting in the vault there all this time. And then the contemporary interviews with Michael, with Phil Jackson, with Pippen, Horace Grant, everybody, and to get their modern-day reflections. And I know, look, there's a bazillion critiques of it and different things that people think, well, it was too tilted this way, or it was too much about, just buffing up Michael's image or all this stuff. I get all that. I think that it delivered what it was supposed to deliver. It gave us the footage that we hadn't seen before. It gave us new insights and raw candor from Jordan. And you don't have to like all of it. You don't have to agree with his definition of leadership, for that matter. But to hear him explain it, this is what he passionately believes, this is his worldview, that's fine. I don't have to buy into it. But I like getting to hear it directly from him. So I thought it was fantastic.
I did too. And again, it left me wanting more. It left me wanting several more episodes. From what I hear, there's a ton of stuff from Jordan's years as a kid that they didn't even touch on. I guess a lot of stuff from what would assume is that long read that Wright Thompson posted on ESPN this week about Mike becoming Michael. And I'd love to see more stuff about, however, the way this team actually did get broken up. And there seems to be some arguments on that front still, Howard.
Yeah. And this is what I mean by, 20 years later, we're not getting there's not going to be some massive revelation. I think we're still getting a lot of just the conflicting accounts of why things unfolded a certain way and all of this. The great Sam Smith, who, of course, chronicled the Bulls for the Chicago Tribune through the Jordan years.
Yes, and that book, the Jordan Rules. The Jordan Rules. Again, that is, what Horace Grant was arguing about Jordan, incorrectly labeling him a snitch. And the sourcing of that book from 1991 is a source of angst in 2020. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it just shows that, obviously Jordan can hold a grudge a long time. And Horace insists he was not a source for that. And, I don't know that it should matter anymore. The book was an accurate portrayal or insight into how Jordan's teammates viewed him, among other things. And he was that was the first time everybody learned, all right, yeah, there's this charismatic, larger than life figure that the whole country's fallen in love with, but there's this dark side and the way he can treat people around him and the way he drives people. And again, I don't think that the Last Dance went out of its way to try to justify any of that. It gave Michael his voice to explain why he did things the way he did, and it gave his former teammates voice in saying, yeah, but he was a bleep. He was this, he was that. It was tough. Like, I don't think it glorified it in any way. I think it gave the full picture. There's a lot of aspects of that where I think people reacted to The Last Dance in a way where they were looking for, well, you're trying to portray Krause this way. You're trying to give Michael, because they know that Jordan had a hand in this whole thing because he had to sign off on the use of the footage. But I think the director, Jason Hare, did a fantastic job in balancing all that. Are there areas that they weren't going to go? Yeah, probably. Are there areas they could have gone? Of course. You could have. There's a 50 other different subjects you could have gone on about, or you could have taken certain things that they spent 3 minutes on and spent a full hour on. You can't cover it all. But on balance, I think they hit the most important things, and they gave us a well-rounded perspective.
Howard Beck here on the Rich Eisen Show from Bleacher Report, senior NBA writer. What's going on in Adam Silver's office today? Walk me through what you think's on the agenda of the commissioner of the NBA on this very day, Howard.
Obviously they're trying to move toward resumption of the season, whatever that may look like and wherever that may be. And it certainly sounds like it's heading toward a split thing where maybe the Western Conference teams are in Vegas and the Eastern Conference teams would be in Orlando. But I would imagine what Adam is doing every single day for the last couple of months, and especially now as we get closer and closer to what feels like a potential reopening, is weighing all of these different considerations, and it's not easy. Like, even as we see, society, cities and states reopening all this, there's still a definite health threat looming out there. There's the potential that we are reopening too quickly, that people are not being careful enough as they're resuming their lives. And all of that has an impact on the NBA, because even if they go for some sort of pseudo bubble concept in a couple of cities, there's still just the larger dynamics going on around you. And any given day, things can turn, and it could scuttle whatever the league is planning. And they have to weigh the risks to not just the players. People always say, oh, it's just players. Yeah, they're elite athletes. They'll be fine. Well, one, plenty of people in their 20s and 30s have died of this virus, and others have overcome it but had lasting damage to internal organs. So these are serious concerns. And besides that, the NBA isn't just the players. It's coaches who are older, some of whom up in their 60s and 70s, and it's other team personnel. And so there's just so many things that Adam Silver has to weigh, whether it's what the owners want to do, what the players are willing to do, coaches, referees. It's a lot of constituencies that he has to account for in figuring out what's the safest way of doing this, and while still preserving some integrity to the season.
So what you're hearing is Disney World for East, Vegas World for West, and do your best to quarantine everybody during the period of actual play. That's what you're hearing right now, Howard?
Well, that has been the I think Mark Lasry, the co-owner of the Bucks, was on record on CNBC yesterday saying that I hope I'm remembering and attributing it to the right place. So much has come out in the last 48 hours, but I think that was Mark Lasry's version of it. That's what they're discussing. Now, things can obviously still change, but we're not going to see NBA play anywhere until at least I think mid to late July, because they still have to first get teams back together and practicing and training. Look, reasonably speaking, it should take 3 to 4 weeks just to get players back in shape. It's been a couple of months, and this isn't the normal couple of months where, like, in a normal off season or even during a lockout, at least during those times, you still have access to gyms. And I know people think, well, they're NBA players. They're all rich and they all have home gyms. Well, no, they're not. They don't all have home gyms, and a lot of them don't even have, baskets anywhere near them to shoot at. And a lot of them are in apartment complexes with, no facilities or facilities that are closed. So it's going to take a while to get guys back in shape. And that's the other health concern. The virus aside, you don't want to have guys come in and start playing before their bodies are ready for it, and have guys, tear an Achilles tendon or a knee. And so there's just a lot that they've got to get done.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we did see with the horse attempt at live sports a few weeks ago that, yeah, not everybody. I guess Conley, from all his Grizzlies dollars, before he made other dollars, he had his own inside gym, but not everybody else did at all. So, obviously that those are those issues. But is there any, from what you're hearing, monetary impasse similar to what baseball might be experiencing right now? Is there anything on that front that you're hearing, or that's copacetic? That is not the issue. The issue primarily is the health and safety protocols for a sport where guys are literally draped all over each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of order of events here. The first thing is, how do we get the league up and running again so that we can minimize the losses, so that there's less of an issue to fight over? But there's going to be a negotiation that has to happen. They've already been doing some of that as they go here, but we don't know what the total losses to the league are yet, and that is partially dependent on when they can get going and how many games they can still stage. And is that going to be some regular season games or just playoffs? And are the playoffs going to be shortened so that you can do it in a shorter time period? All these things are going to have an impact. And then beyond that, Rich, all right, one, when we do see games, it's a given there's not going to be any fans in the stands. Two, whenever next season starts, if it's October, which would be the normal schedule, or if it's pushed back to November, December, which seems more likely, next season is almost certainly starting without fans too. And if you talk to experts, there's a chance that we don't see fans in stadiums and concerts and all these other things, any mass gatherings, until maybe middle of next year, in which case you're going to have maybe an entire NBA season played with no fans, in which case, again, massive financial hit on that side. And all of that's going to have to be negotiated between the players and the owners, but it's too soon to speculate on how that will play out or how big of a hurdle that is.
Yeah, I hear you. Don't you think, though, if the NBA starts its next season this December, that's the way they'll do it from now on? Like literally make that decision? Because if you have a season in December and it runs all the way through to August, how do you turn around one year and say, let's get back to schedule within 6 to 8 weeks? Certainly if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about an Olympics year too, right? So now the Olympics are thrown in the middle of all that, or they basically just tell the Olympics, go with college players this year because that's the way we're doing it. I mean, I understand that there's much bigger fish frying right now, but I'm looking over the steering wheel here, and you hear owners like Cuban saying we should be starting Christmas Day anyway. Do you think that this is a possibility?
Possibility. I'm still not sold on it, and I don't know that enough people are sold on it. It's something that the NBA had kicked around conceptually, and ironically, the Sloan conference, the MIT Sloan conference, which happened right before everything shut down.
Right.
That was when Steve Koonin from the Hawks floated that publicly. Now, the upside is you start in mid-December or late December. You're less competition, less fewer weeks that you're competing directly with the NFL and college football. And then you also get to push a lot of your calendar into the summer when there's not much sports outside of Major League Baseball. And so there's this idea that this might be the better overall model anyway. But to push the calendar that way permanently and put the virus aside for a moment and all the other conflict or the other obstacles in the next few months, to do that permanently means playing into the summer permanently means you're now asking the players to give up their summers when a lot of them have kids who are out of school at that time. That's when families, including NBA players, take vacations. They may want their summers still to themselves and their families. They may not want to have this shift where suddenly that's off the table, and their NBA calendars are not matching up with the school calendar anymore. So that's a consideration, and the players have to sign off on it. The league can't do this unilaterally. This has to be collectively bargained, the schedule. Now, as to whether or not it has to happen this way, listen, the NBA still has enough time. If they want to do this in a way that doesn't impact next season's calendar too greatly, they can do a best-of-3 first round instead of best-of-7. They could do a best-of-3 second round, or they could go best-of-3, best-of-5. They can go top 6 teams in each conference instead of the top 8 if they want to. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to fit in the last 15, 16 regular season games and then playoffs. They can configure us any way they want to and shorten up the amount of time it takes to resume and finish this season if they don't want it to impact next season too much. And even if it does impact next season, Rich, clearly it will affect the start of it at some point because you still have to fit in a draft and free agency and all these things. You can always do it in a way where, you can tighten up here and there. Instead of the full week for All-Star break, you could go back to the old way where All-Star break is only a couple of days. You can, put more back-to-backs back in the schedule after years of eliminating those. You can find ways to adjust it so that you could finish a delayed 2020-21 season enough that you could then still turn around and get back on track for the following season.
Yeah, hasn't Steve Kerr basically say we're assuming our season's over? We're done. We prefer to be done. We think we're done. We're done, right? That's what he basically said.
And that's totally justified,
right?
Too.
I know.
You've been off it'll have been like 3 months. If you're the Warriors or the Cavaliers or the Hawks or the Knicks, teams that had no hope of making playoffs, whose seasons were already over, to me, the idea of forcing all 30 teams back, getting everybody back into game shape to play what basically amount to exhibition games and then going away. Now, I know in a normal October, you come together for training camp after having been off for a couple of months, whatever, but again, not a normal off season in this case. You're playing for the preseason and then an 82-game season. This would be like in a normal year coming back in October to play 5 exhibition games and then going away. And that's it. You're just done.
Right.
Like, where's the incentive? What is the point of it? If you're the players, if you're those teams that are out of it, it just seems illogical. And on top of that, that's that many more hundreds of people who now have to be tested daily, who have to be transported to this other city, who have to be away from their families or bring their families with them, and then their families have to be tested all the time and potentially quarantined. It's just to me, the more practical way of doing this is to minimize the number of teams you involve when you resume, but it's easy for me to say that. I'm not the one who's sacrificing the tens of millions of dollars.
Right. I know that, or unless you could do what our friend Brian Windhorst from ESPN thinks that the NBA should do in its final couple of weeks of a regular season from now on, which is take teams, 15 through 8 in each conference and have them play a tournament to be the 8th seed, to basically become the 8th and final playoff spot team, have them fight that out. You do that this time around. Yes, you do have to get everybody to turn the machines back on, to use the trading places phrase. But and in that respect, I would hope that Steve Kerr means what he says, that they're done, because that means that obviously every single Warrior that was injured, including Clay Thompson, could come back and be the best 15 seed in the history of 15 seeds, right? And then maybe go on some sort of a run, and the Lakers come out of their season as a 1 seed and out of their break as a 1 seed, and here comes a already battle-tested Warriors team. I'm saying this stuff totally knowing that it's a fantasy, but also I'm enjoying this sort of sports talk.
For sure.
Like that could actually be possible, Howard. That's something that you could think about too.
I think that, the NBA has everything that you and I could possibly come up with.
Right.
They have considered over the last couple of months.
Sure.
They have gamed out all these scenarios on 1,000 different, dry erase boards or whatever they're using these days.
Right.
And I think the idea of involving all 30 teams in some sort of play-in tournament has a lot of appeal competitively and for the fans, and it'd be really intriguing, especially for teams like the Warriors, where injured players might be back for that. On the other hand, let's think about it. If you're the Warriors and you're thinking about how this is your gap year, and next year you're coming back with a healthy Steph and a healthy Clay Thompson and a healthy Draymond Green, starting the season with Andrew Wiggins and whoever else you pick up along the way, and you're back in contention, but you want all those guys healthy to do that. So to rush back after 3 months out and to try to get guys up and running just so you can make a run through some play-in tournament at the 8th seed to possibly to take on the Lakers in the first round, I don't know if that makes sense. I think from a broader view, you would want to say, no, you know what, we're preparing for next season. Like this is not. It's the same thing with Kevin Durant. Why would Kevin Durant, after a year off with an Achilles, rush back to join the 7th seeded Nets to just to play a handful of games potentially and probably lose in the first round and risk whatever progress you've made. Give yourself the extra few months to really get back in shape.
All right, real briefly. So is June 1 a real date? Like, hey, we're going to hear from the commissioner June 1. We're hearing that from Woj. We're seeing that from just the rumor mill as well. What do you think?
Everything is pointing in that direction, but these things are evolving, ever evolving, changing day to day, and I would expect that on some level. I wouldn't count on it. I make no hard and fast assumptions at a time like this, but it does seem like we're going to get some clarity soon.
Howard, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hope everybody stays nice and healthy in your world, brother.
Always, always. Thank you, Rich. My best to you and Susie.
Thank you very much, Howard. That's Howard Beck right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Howard is assuming there's going to be no fans next year, too, because we don't know, right? Like, let's say they do finish this year with no fans. Then it starts in December. As I mentioned at the very top of the show, that Anthony Fauci, Dr. Fauci of the National Institute of Health, saying that a vaccine may not be available till January of 2021. I don't think any state is going to, regardless of your politics, no state is going to open up arenas to fill up to the rafters until there is a vaccine, I would think. And let me just throw out, too, you're hearing, again, the athletic director of Ohio State, Gene Smith, saying that there is a possibility of having a plan of 20 to 30,000 fans in a stadium. Also, Notre Dame, I think Jack Swarbrick, the athletic director, saying that there is a plan to have some fans in the stadium. How do you police something like that? Yeah, it's tough enough to police the fans during a regular game. How can you police that? How can you make sure that of those 20 to 30,000 fans, you could have every seat delineated by that's for your ticket, a yellow square around that seat, or you go
every other row, every two seats. You would
have to tarp the seats that are not used.
Right.
Otherwise, people will just move around, and there's not enough security guards to make sure that everybody is still 6 feet apart. And then what happens is there alcohol? I'm being deadly serious. Is there alcohol?
Also, are you telling me if there's a touchdown, no one's going to high five each other?
And then what's going to happen when you've got to go to the bathroom? I mean, ladies, I've been in men's rooms my entire life. And I've been in men's rooms during sporting events. And ladies, if you've ever been to a zoo, if you've ever been to a part of the zoo where there are primates in that part of the zoo, that's what a men's room looks like in the 6th inning of a baseball game or the 4th quarter of a football game. Come on.
It's probably cleaner in the zoo.
How do you practice all of the distancing that's required? Do you also insist that fans mask up?
Not
and then what
right?
do you do when somebody takes their mask off? Hey, I'll wear my mask into the stadium just so I get there, but this is America, and they take their mask off.
Right.
Then what are you going to do? You're going to eject every one of those fans? Are you seeing the videos out there of what people are calling the Karens of the world? Are you seeing all that on Twitter? And the front line of defense are these poor checkout clerks?
Those women aren't going insane.
That people are being coughed at because they're being told you need to put on a mask because it does actually cut down the communicable nature of this disease by at least a factor of 12, based on some reports. And I can always tell the look on your face, Chris, when you don't make eye contact with me.
Yes.
When I'm treading water into a potentially dicey area that people could think is politically based or socially based or something. You wear a mask it prevents this disease from being passed from one person to another within 6 feet of you by a factor of 12.
That's a lot.
It's that simple. You don't have to call it a face mask because there's no such thing as a knee mask or an elbow mask. It is a mask. And if fans are allowed into stands and into stadiums and into arenas, even if it's outdoors, you're going to have to require, or you could say, all right, if you stay 6 feet apart, if you stay in your seat, and what if there are people who are family members who have been quarantined together who arrive to the game? You bring like your 7-year-old to the game. Let's just say you're comfortable enough to do that you've read all of the protocols, the safety protocols, getting into the stadium, getting to your seat, getting to the stadium, getting into your seat, getting through security, that you feel fine, that the protocols are there to keep you healthy and safe. You're going to sit 6 feet apart from your 7-year-old? You're going to be fine with that?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you police this idea? It's a great idea. Hey, we could be social distant at a stadium and still have fans and have a fan experience and get the revenue that's required for us to keep the sport going, for you, the fan, to see at home, to pay for the staff, to get the games with no fans up and running. I understand it's an economic decision. Every single decision that we're making right now seems to be the cost-benefit analysis, literal and also figurative, of your health. But how do you have fans if you have to police all this stuff? There's so many issues once you talk about it and talk it out. But none of it's insurmountable. None of it is insurmountable if we all band together and know if there are fans allowed into the stands at a game. And it is also necessary to allow those fans into the stands during a game in order to hold the games, period. If you find out as a fan you have an important role to play, other than just cheering for first downs or made three-pointers, or hopefully sooner rather than later, a lit lamp with a biscuit in a basket. If you find out that you have an important role to play in the games taking place, you better follow the rules. Otherwise, that person that's coming to the game trying to follow the rules could wind up on a ventilator, and that is the truth. Now you can make eye contact with me because I'm done with that, Chris. I mean, that's my 2 cents when I hear all of this stuff about that. Plus, I'm trying to work out my angst because I know in the next hour we're going to talk about Jamal Adams being on the trading block, and that pisses me off.
What was the word yesterday? Impasse.
I don't want to hear it.
Telling you what's being reported.
I know
Rich
that.
Cimini.
We'll hit that.
All right.
Because that's the major NFL news story that's going on. I know the Dak contract and whether he was offered what Chris Sims says he was offered, and what that means and what this means and all of that. That I know is a deadline for July.
Right.
All this right now is posturing because midnight's not striking for that in another 6 weeks.
Right.
But we will
Adams
talk about
is irked.
Okay.
Oh, man. Irked and impasse, double eyes.
Between Frank Reich and Nate Boyer, we'll discuss it.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Because our poll question, you want to unpack it right now?
Yeah.
All right, let's unpack it right now.
All right, let me get this thing.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll revisit it, I imagine, on the back end of Frank Reich because he's first up right as soon as we come on the air on NBCSN. And then Nate Boyer will join us at the very end of the next hour to walk us through what's going on in the world of Veterans Affairs as Memorial Day is coming up on Monday. And obviously it's going to be a totally different Memorial Day. There's no Indy 500 this weekend. There's also, we're assuming, no mass gatherings in backyards for barbecues and things of that nature.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be some somewhere.
And just again, it's always been a holiday, and it seems like every day is just runs into the next. For a lot of the veterans who are back from their theaters of war, it's the toughest day on the calendar year. And that's why I want to have Nate on to talk about that and what's going on in the world of Veterans Affairs with COVID-19 and how we can all help and band together and help those who protect us on the front lines in theaters of war around the world. Terry Crews and Clay Helton. Today's poll question brought to you by Geico, which is sharing with you in the same way that you're sharing on various forms of social media. And thanks for sharing everything that you share with the rest of the world. Now it's Geico's turn to share with you with the Geico Give Back. A 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers. How about that? And because Geico's committed for the long haul, the 15% credit lasts your full policy term, the entire term of your policy. 15% credit. Visit geico.com/giveback for info and eligibility. Christopher, what do you have over there?
All right. So if you're new to the program, Rich hates the movie Rudy. However, he loves the movie Hoosiers. Both have come up recently as, hot topics of debate. So we're just going to go for it. Which is the most overrated sports movie? Rudy, Hoosiers, at Rich Eisen Show. Give us a call, 844-204-RICH.
Okay. And again, Rudy's come up many times in this past week because we've talked about sports movies quite a bit. I find this poll question outrageous. But yesterday, The Big Lead, a sports blog or a sports website, picked up my distress over Rudy, and others in our profession picked up on it too, including Levitard, right?
He sure did.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan.
And Jorge Sedano.
Okay, fantastic. That's right. Frank Reich is our first guest when we come right back. And we're four wide the rest of the 2 hours here on The Rich Eisen Show. We're back just a couple minutes.
Back here. Number one, Halloween Peeps.
That's from last Halloween.
Yeah, those are a year old that my mom sent.
I think you have to eat them on camera.
Like right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like nuclear holocausts. That lasts.
By the way, is anyone else gonna have one of these? Are you gonna have one?
Absolutely not.
No. What else is under there?
You're learning your lesson right
These
now.
are disgusting. By the way, they're still soft.
Of course. Robert. Go ahead.
Eat this. Chris Paul
What's under there?
Oh, yeah. A bobblehead box. Is it empty?
Yeah,
Why are you keeping the box?
on the desk.
Why are you
How's the
keeping
peep? Yeah. How's the peep?
What are you keeping the box? By the way, bring them.
Are you serious?
Does anybody want one?
No.
Everybody want one?
I'm curious what a year-old peep looks like.
Have a peep.
Del Tufo wants a year-old peep. What else is under there?
Oh, some more year-old Halloween candy.
Dude, Halloween is a week and a half away.
I'm getting ready. I was stocking up.
How many shirts are under there?
All right. 1.
Yeah. T-shirt.
2.
Regular shirt.
3.
This is ridiculous.
4.
This is
Hold on,
absurd.
keep going.
We call it Brockman's Hobo Day.
Dude, what are you doing?
Wait, hold on.
6.
This is crazy.
There's more.
No way.
7.
Gillian,
This is insane.
Have you ever?
8.
This is like,
What's this? Is this a shirt? 9.
oh my God.
We've got some
Pull over.
More shirts than I own.
I got a hat.
Dude.
hat,
Lenovo.
a spoon,
That he stole from
a
next
water
door.
bottle.
Oh my God, this is
There's a lab coat.
Dude.
Oh, more Roddy Piper.
This is.
Oh my God.
That's sweet.
Why is that under there?
That should be out.
It's a little creepy.
Oh, the rest of it's not
Magic
creepy.
eraser.
This is unbelievable.
What?
I just bought some of these at Home Depot. They're great.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Yeah, that's been the nation. I'm going to tell you that every time.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
That is truly unbelievable.
Live from the AT&T studios in Los Angeles. Earlier on the show, Bleacher Report senior NBA writer Howard Beck. Coming up, Colts head coach Frank Reich. Former Green Beret Nate Boyer. Host of NBC's America's Got Talent, Terry Crews. USC head coach Clay Helton. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
It's a Friday before Memorial Day weekend edition of the Rich Eisen Show here in the crazy year of 2020. We are all happy and healthy, thank goodness, right here in the Rich Eisen Show studio. And as long as we are here and able to do the proper social distancing, as we are able to do every single day here on this show, after 5.5 years of being figuratively socially distant from one another, so we're used to that. But we're happy to be here on the show. I'm your host, Rich Eisen. That's Chris Brockman in the Andy Reid Hawaiian gear.
What's happening, guys?
And Mike Del Tufo, my audio executive, where he is. We're 5 wide today. We already had Howard Beck in hour number 1 on YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Nate Boyer, the longtime Green Beret, who went back and forth from the University of Texas, where he was a long snapper for Mac Brown and Theaters of War. Now with Jay Glazer, one of the founders of Merging Vets and Players, which is a fantastic organization, as we're on the verge of one of the more unique Memorial Day weekends ever, if not the most. He will be joining us on the show. Terry Crews of America's Got Talent on NBC is going to be joining us in the middle of our final hour that wraps up with Clay Helton, who's a wide receiver from Southern California. Michael Pittman Jr. was the first draft choice of the Indianapolis Colts. And the reason why I make that turn here at the top of our NBCSN show, 1 to 3 Eastern every single weekday here on the Rich Eisen Show, is because right there on hold, and let's take him off hold, he is the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us right off the bat, to use a baseball phrase. Frank Reich, how are you, Coach?
Rich, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Everybody good in your family, in your world, happy and healthy, hopefully?
Yeah, appreciate you asking. Everybody's good, and looking forward to spending the Memorial Day together as a family.
I bet so. So, what's it like in your world right now, Frank? Are you in your facility in the state of Indiana, or what is everything going on with the Colts right now?
Yeah, no, we're still following league protocol. Not, coaches, players not allowed in the facility. So, we're being productive, Rich. I mean, we've adapted and learned what we need to learn, and it's not the same, but I'll tell you what, I mean, I think we're getting as much out of it as we possibly can.
How so? What are you getting out of it?
Well, for example, on our Zoom meetings, we're figuring out ways to do, we got a new quarterback. So, you know how it is. It's a big deal. You need to hear his voice. You need to hear him call plays in the huddle. You need to hear him at the line of scrimmage called in cadence. So we're finding ways to kind of do virtual walkthroughs. Make sure we're trying to team bond, like some of those things you have to do on the field. And it's not the same, but it's the next best thing, and it's what we have to do.
No, I know that rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks usually are told by coaches, go into the mirror and start calling out plays, get your cadence going, sound more confident, get ready to roll. Are you? Obviously, it's gotten out of confidence thing, but so Phillip Rivers is zooming in, and you're having him call out plays, so your rest of the offense can hear his cadence and pick it up, and maybe somebody like Jacob Eisen can be on that Zoom and pick something up from it. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, because as everybody knows, same with every team, that you got to follow the rhythm of the cadence of the starting quarterback. So it's important for Jacob and more important for Jacoby, because Phillips' cadence will be slightly different than what some of the other guys used to. I mean, after 16 years of calling cadence, I'm not about to try to change the way he's calling his cadence. We'll adapt to his style of cadence. That's common. When you have a new starting quarterback. So the guys are picking it up well, and it's been fun. I mean, we're trying to have fun with it. We do stuff like that. We try to do some competitive game. We do a bunch of stuff competitive quizzes. What's really making it work, though, Rich, is the guys are buying in. This doesn't work. This Zoom stuff doesn't work if the players don't engage. And so our players are engaging. I feel like we're learning a lot and taking some important steps.
Well, there's a lot to talk about your quarterback room before we get to your starter. Jim Kelly would not forgive me if I did not mention Chad, who's his nephew, who's up. We just showed on the screen right there, because he was texting me like crazy during the combine. And knowing that you and Chris Ballard were directly next to our booth at the NFL Network, saying, "Don't forget to mention Chad." He said he's a different person, a different kid, that he worked with Phil Simms, so on and so forth. Can you add a little bit more to that, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, Chad, I cannot tell you how happy we are with Chad. I mean, he's really made he's progressed a lot. As a quarterback, he really works hard at it. Chad is, of course, I'm so close to Jim.
Yep.
And I know the Kelly clan as well as anybody, and he is a true Kelly now. And, if you're a Kelly, that's a guy you want in the bunker with you. And, you want him in the bunker with you. He knows how to fight. He's a good teammate. And, he has worked with Phil. He's really worked hard at his craft, and he's continuing to improve. So we got four. We'll have four in camp. It's going to be really competitive. We like that, though. Chad likes that. All our quarterbacks like that. The more competitive, the better.
Is the way that he wound up there, was it the Buffalo connection with you and Jim?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chad was. Here's the second thing. Chad's working really hard on the field, but everybody knew Chad had he had one or two issues off the field that had kind of put him on the outside. And Jim called me up and said, "Hey, Frank, he just needs a chance." And so we talked it through. I talked it through with Chris, and we brought Chad in, and Chris Ballard and I sat down with Chad and said, "Hey, man, this is it. You got to do it right. You got to do it right on and off the field." And I got to tell you, Chad Kelly off the field has been as good as anybody I've been around. The guy is a model. He's been a 10 out of 10 off the field as well as on the field. So I'm excited. I'm excited for him.
I had to bring it up because if Jim's sitting out there right now watching us, and I didn't bring him up, I'd never hear the end of it, Frank. So I had to bring him up.
Hey, I always like talking about Kellys now. I mean, my as you can appreciate,
yes,
my friendship with Jim goes really, really deep.
It sure does. Frank Reich here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, Philip signs a 1-year deal. Do you think this could, if it all works out, go longer than that, Frank?
That's what we're hoping. I mean, Rich, when I looked at his film from 18 and 19, and I was with him for 3 years, for 13, 14, and 15. And, he was still playing it, throwing it, and physically at a high level. And when I watched every pass he threw in 18 and 19. When they went 12-4, in 2 years ago, and then last year was not a good year for their team. But I didn't see any drop off physically. So I mean, you're 38. He's going to turn 39. So maybe he hits a wall at some point, but I haven't seen it. So it's probably good to go year by year, but our intention is, and I think his intention is, hey, as long as he's still playing at a high level, and let's do this thing. Let's see where we can go. We're excited. I think he's excited. This was a unique opportunity, Rich. I mean, we were happy with a lot of what Jacoby did last year. We as a team struggled at the end of the year. Jacoby took a little of the brunt of that, probably unfairly so. But so this move was not so much unhappy with Jacoby as it was, hey, we got an opportunity to get a future Hall of Fame quarterback who knows us and we know him. So let's do that.
And every year that he does play for you, that means St. Michael Catholic High School needs to wait for their coach, Frank, right? Is that what that's?
That's right.
I mean, maybe he wants to pick. I know his dad was a coach. Maybe he wants to pick up some pointers from you while he's playing for you. Maybe.
Well, it's funny. We were actually talking on the phone last night, and I swear he's talking like a coach. But he's always talked like that. That's in his blood, and I'm happy for him that he has a clear picture of where he wants to go.
Hey, a few more minutes left with Frank Reich of the Colts here on the Rich Eisen Show. My favorite draft choice, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here right now, was Jonathan Taylor, 41st overall. I think that kid's a steal. I think he is a star. You want to talk about off the field? I can't rave about him enough, and I'm a Michigan Wolverine, and he kicked my team's ass every single time he played them, and I couldn't be more glad that he's out of the Big Ten and now in your world. How much are you expecting out of him in this coming fall?
Yeah, I mean, we're expecting a lot, and it's like you said, we think he can come in and make an immediate impact because he's got the off the field, maturity, to handle what he needs to handle and to get ready, even in this kind of COVID environment. He's mentally really sharp, his really high character. I had so many people call me and text me after we picked him. I mean, literally, it was a lot of people, a lot of football people that, hey, this was my favorite guy. He's the off the field and on the field. This is one of the best guys in the draft, kind of like what you're saying, Rich. So, and it's funny, Chris Ballard, I remember him telling me at the beginning of the year, he obviously everybody had their eye on Jonathan Taylor, but, Chris has some ties to Wisconsin, and, he I think had been hoping all year long that this would work out. So between him and Michael Pittman, now, I mean, those first two guys are really quality players and on the field, but we really think can be great long-term leaders for us.
Speaking of great guys on off the field, when was the last time you spoke to Andrew Luck, Frank?
Not long ago. I talked to him a fair amount. We keep in regular contact. I got real close with Andrew in the short time we were together. Really happy for him. He's made a great transition. He's really happy. I'm happy he's still in Indy. They built a home in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
He and Nicole built a home in Indy, and had their little girl, and she's really sweet. And so, keep in touch with him every couple of weeks or so, and just to check in. But he's doing great.
Is it true you helped him get married, Frank? Is that a fact?
Yeah. Well, they got married in Prague, but when you come back to the States,
yes,
part of the legal proceedings to be legal was you needed an ordained minister to sign the document. And so I was honored that he would ask. And then Chris Ballard got to sign as a witness. So in my office, the four of us stood there and signed the documents to make it official here in the States.
So you're ordained? You're ordained?
Yes. Yeah.
When did that happen?
That happened between the time that I got finished playing and got back into coaching. Had went to seminary and school, and then really served as an interim pastor for about a year and a half, and so got ordained in that process. And one of the reasons I did that, Rich, was for wedding purposes. I have 3 daughters, and I don't know why this vision had always been on my heart, but I just really because that kind of stuff really means a lot to me. So I kind of had this picture in my mind of being able to walk my 3 daughters down the aisle.
That's amazing.
And then turn around and then perform the ceremony. So 2 down and 1 to go, and those have been fantastic experiences.
That's fantastic. I love every word you just said, but is there a way that I could help you improve that story in any way, shape, or form? Because I like to improve things, even if it's not true, Frank. And if you'll indulge me, if anybody asks you when you were ordained, from now on, can't you just say during halftime against the Houston Oilers? Couldn't you say that? Don't you think?
That is awesome. I think that's a great story. I think, you know what?
From now on.
If you'll vouch for me, I think we should go for it.
Go for it. From now on, people, hey, when did you become ordained? Hey, halftime against the Houston Oilers. Right? You just had a moment, right?
That's great. That's amazing.
Oh, man, before I let you go, this new rule that's going to be voted on, instead of an onside kick, you can go 4th and 15 from your own 25. You like it? To keep possession. Do you like that idea, Frank?
You know what? When this has been talked about for, I don't know, about a year maybe. When I first heard it, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, and I was like, I'm not sure I like it, but I think it'll be interesting. So I'm open-minded about it. I feel like we can be a good team in those kind of situations. So if and when we need it, I would like to think with our offense that it could be an advantage for us, relatively speaking.
Oh, I think so too, and we're already trying to figure out who's going to be the first coach to do it when they're up. to try and get that vaunted 2-possession advantage, my first thought was Doug Peterson. That sounds like a total Doug Peterson move, but, you're from his staff as well. Would you do that? Would you even think about, hey, you know what, I'll do the math, 4th and 15, percentage is this, I've got the play in my back pocket, this is a way I can salt a game away. Would you even think about doing it up as opposed to something you need to do to try and get back in a game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm with you though. It wouldn't surprise me if Doug would do it. I'm pretty aggressive in my play calling, but Doug might just do it after the first series. After the first touchdown he scores, just to prove the point. So that's how his mind works.
But if I had to choose the first quarterback who would be in his coach's face to say we should do this, it would be yours though. I would choose Phillip over anybody else on that.
That I would agree with. For sure.
You'll go with that one. Hey, Frank, thank you for the call. Appreciate the time. Let's stay in touch down the road. Always appreciate our chats and our time together.
Yeah, same, Rich. Best to you. Have a great weekend.
Same to you. That's Frank Reich, Indianapolis Colts head coach, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So we checked the Jim Kelly box. I don't need to hear from Jim. Oh, I love hearing from Jim. I'm telling you, during the combine, it's like, don't forget Chad. You're going to keep talking about what the Colts need to do at quarterback. And we were talking at the time, at the combine, late February, early March. Tony Dungy came on this show and said a good landing spot for Tom Brady would be Indianapolis. And we were saying, would Tom Brady really go to the spot where Peyton Manning has a statue outside of it and go to work every day? Wouldn't that? And Tony Dungy did not stutter. Tony, give me the best spot for Tom Brady. Indianapolis Colts. And it made sense. And of course, when you're on the air for 4 straight days, 8 hours a day at the combine, I brought it up.
Sure.
Why not? What are they going to do here at quarterback in Indianapolis? Phillip Rivers was a rumor that obviously was well-founded. And Jim Kelly's blowing me up on this very phone. Don't forget about Chad. And Frank Reich from the depth chart. Back in the day, from Marv Levy in Buffalo.
At halftime. That's funny.
Do you like
man.
that?
When
When were you ordained?
Funny.
Halftime against the Houston Rollers. He should just deadpan that from now on. That should be his pat answer. Not like, hey, after I played, I wanted to do it. Beautiful story, wanting to marry his daughters.
Cool.
2 down, 1 to go. Beautiful story. Isn't it better when you say, I was ordained against the Houston Astros?
January 3rd, 1993.
That's when I was ordained. At halftime. At halftime. Went into the locker room, became ordained.
It was 35-3.
Now then, when we come back, I look at the football gods. I'm an ordained Jet fan, and I say, why? Why am I hearing about Jamal Adams on the trading block? And your phone calls at 844-204-RICH. And the poll question, which is Indiana-based. Hey, everybody. I'm wearing a shirt I did not fit into 2 months ago. I'm very excited about it.
Well done.
And it's the first time in a long time. Hey, I guess we're opening things up around here, too. We haven't seen a guy working outside the window, turning on a hose behind us.
Hey, hold on a second.
Yeah,
as you say that,
As
there's
you
a
say
dude
that,
behind
movement.
you.
I noticed.
Movement.
It's been a long time since I lost your attention because you were watching people
Wow.
come
Put
to
the
work here
lines
behind
up.
me.
Me and Brockman are in like.
Can't confirm or
Yeah.
deny.
Yeah,
that.
I can confirm it. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll be taking some phone calls and getting ready for Nate Boyer, Terry Crews,
Warren Moon
Clay
had
Helton.
4 touchdowns in the first half.
Dude, that game was over.
2 to Haywood Jeffries. And then Bubba McDowell opens the second half with a pick 6.
Over.
It's 35-3.
Game was over. And Frank Reich won the game 38-35. Correct?
41-38 overtime.
Okay,
Steve
41-38.
Christie field
Okay.
goal.
I
35
forgot
straight
this.
to force overtime. Including 3 straight touchdown passes to Andre Reed.
Frank liked my my upgrade of his story, right?
Very much so. I guarantee you he starts telling it that way from now on.
When did you become ordained? Halftime against Houston. That's when I did. You know who doesn't find that funny?
Who?
Anybody from Houston.
No.
Don't find it funny. Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon. Way too soon. Okay, we've got Memorial Day weekend coming up. All 3 days. We're off on Monday. Just giving everybody a heads up on our YouTube stream.
Did it feel like it kind of snuck up on you, Memorial Day weekend?
Everything's sneaking up on me. It's amazing how long the days are and how we're doing the same thing over and over again, week by week. Everyone's doing the same thing over again, day by day.
Yep.
And it's just like it's Thursday again. It's Friday again. It's now the end of May.
Yeah.
We're marking time, which is not the way everyone wants to live life. You want to live life to the fullest, not mark time, but we're marking time here. $1 million
That is incredible.
for Bob Kraft's ring?
Super Bowl ring.
Is that really what happened?
Yeah. From the Falcons. That was the 28-3 Super Bowl ring.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's the one he put up.
Great. $1 million for the All-In Challenge.
Oof.
Well done, Bob Kraft.
Dang.
Is the person who bought it in Russia? Do they have an IP address in Russia?
They got 2 of them now.
To match?
2 rings now.
Unconfirmed.
To match? $1 million.
That's.
I think my All-In Challenge has got a few more hours left in it if you want to
saw
go
it.
vote on that.
Good amount
to
on
go
yours. That's awesome.
Raise money for fighting food insecurity there. Come hang with me to draft either next year in Cleveland or the year after that in
that
Vegas.
is super cool. Can't wait.
Yep. We're back in a second. Live from yesteryear, it's Saturday night every night next week on NBCSN as our friends at NBCSN, well, I love this concept,
so
this idea.
cool.
Athlete hosts from Saturday Night Live history every single night next week, multiple shows cut down to an hour, and it starts on Memorial Day night with Michael Jordan's 1991 Saturday Night Live hosting appearance. You could see Brady's on Tuesday night. I believe Peyton Manning will also have his re-aired on Tuesday night. The Rock, John Cena, Michael Phelps, just 5 of the sports stars that you'll relive the Saturday Night Live experience on NBCSN. That's next week. I remember Jordan. You remember Jordan did the daily affirmation with Stuart Smalley?
Oh, yeah.
The future senator from the state of Minnesota, Al Franken, played Stuart Smalley, a guy who would look in the mirror and say, gosh, smart enough. Gosh darn it, people like me. And when he had Jordan look in the mirror to affirm his greatness.
And he
laugh out loud.
Yeah,
hilarious.
He was trying not to break the whole time.
Trying not to break, look in the mirror.
Good.
Gosh darn it, people like me. I'm good enough. I'm
smart enough.
Yeah, Jordan had some sort of what a brilliant idea to sit in the room like, what are we going to do with Jordan? How can we plug him into a regular bit, a regular skit of ours? Love that. That was laugh out loud. I remember it to this day. That's great, man. It'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, if you want to talk about the best, you could say the best sports-related skit.
Well, it's
with a sports star. It's the Peyton Manning United Way commercial.
Absolutely.
Winging balls at kids.
Just chucking balls 100 miles an hour at little kids. It's the best.
Well, the best sports skit, you could say, was the Swirsky Brothers. And we've had Joe Mantegna, the actor
sports.
here.
Yes, they weren't playing sports, obviously.
No, but just lighting up the Chicago sports fan.
Right.
Hurricane Ditka. The best thing is
Hurricane
Ditka.
Ditka is the best.
What's the best? What's the best type of Ditka? Hurricane Ditka.
Who would win in a fight, Ditka or a hurricane named Ditka?
The Bears.
And then Chris Farley has like a dozen heart attacks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And go to on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. The actor Joe Mantegna explaining how that all came about because he was the host of Saturday Night Live that week. They knew he was from Chicago. They wrote it for him.
Right.
And then they did it again with that's when George Wendt started doing it when Joe wasn't there, and it just took on a life of its own. There's a great sort of mini oral history of that sketch.
Yeah, very funny.
Anyway, that's on NBCSN all next week, and in prime time. Good stuff. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll take your calls in a second.
You were going to talk about this? Glasses off. Business is meant.
I'm just going to come straight through the front door. I'm just going to come straight through the front door. I'm not going to knock on the side. I'm not going to dance around the subject and then come home and hit it straight. If the Jets trade away Jamal Adams because they can't figure out a contract for him, and they do it this summer because they're afraid he's going to hold out, I will hit the ceiling. I will absolutely hit the ceiling. Like, literally, I will get on a ladder and punch the ceiling. Whatever room I'm in when I hear it, I will find a step ladder. I will find a ladder. I'll climb on a piece of furniture, depending on the room and the height of the ceiling and whatever else I get. I will punch the ceiling. I will hit the ceiling. We've been through this before, Jets fans, and I understand Joe Douglas is here to do a job and figure out the roster and all of that. Jamal Adams, I don't know what's going on in the locker room, and I don't know what he was doing behind the scenes. All I know is how good he is. And this is the type of guy you build around defensively. This is what you do. You build around him and his personality. I don't care if it clashes with the coach. And if you decide that he's not going to come in, guess what? Then let him try it that. And I say that fully loving the guy. Saw him at the Super Bowl in Miami. He knows how I feel about him. He was part of our combine coverage with Dion, was amazing at it on the last day of the combine. But the whole idea of Jamal Adams and the Jets being at a contractual impasse now, and them trading him now because they're afraid he's holding out. Look what happened with Darrelle Revis. John Izek did it. The old general manager of the New York Jets. Mike, I think you got some of my favorite John Izek moments that are right there because
stand by.
He was the guy who traded away Darrelle Revis because they folded during his holdout and it became a holy heck of a mess. And they traded him to Tampa. We all know how that worked out. You might as well, if you're thinking of trading Jamal Adams right now, just send him to New England. Just send him to New England. Just send him right to Bill Belichick. That's where he'll go.
We'll take him.
You bet you will.
Please welcome the wickedly...
No, that's very good. Thank you.
I was
That's
just doing that for you, Rich.
Look, if Jamal Adams and the Jets can't come to a contractual agreement right now, you got to play it out. The time to have traded Jamal Adams is before this year's draft. Are you really going to trade him to the Dallas Cowboys who will fall over themselves? And I know you might get a 1 for him. And then you got to wait to cash in that 1 next year? You don't trade players away in the middle of the summer, especially when you're on the verge of a season where you need to see what you got in your quarterback. And you need to see what you have in your coach with your quarterback. And you need to see what you have in a team that finished up as well as it did last year. Is this a playoff team or not? If you think it's a playoff team, and if you think you need to evaluate your quarterback with your coach, and you need to evaluate all that, you don't trade Jamal Adams away. You figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, and Jamal Adams wants to hold out, that's the only recourse you have as management. Don't trade him away. Your team's not better with him elsewhere. Your team's worse. I don't believe that I got to actually say these things. Maybe the rumors and the reporting is posturing, and I'm taking the bait. And the only reason why I'm taking the bait, speaking on behalf of every Jet fan, is because I've seen the bait. I've seen the bait. I've seen the fishing rod. I've seen the pond. I've seen whatever. If it's deep sea, I've seen that. I've seen the boats. I've seen it all. And you know what it ends with? It ends like Jaws. It ends like, name any sea movie. Go ahead, name a sea movie.
Perfect Storm.
Yes! That's how it ends. It doesn't end like The Love Boat, where Charo and Jack Klugman fall in love and they sail right back into port after a wonderful trip to Puerto Vallarta.
Moby Dick.
That's the only, by the way, that's the only ocean sea story I know that ends
course.
very well. Where Vic Tayback and B. Arthur connect.
Wow.
And they come home and they love each other. And Isaac double points at him and they run off into the sunset. And I sit there and watch Fantasy Island as the Jets win a Super Bowl.
That's right.
They don't end like that.
No.
So I'm taking the bait because I've seen this before.
All right, so Adams set to make $3.5 million this year, jumps to $10 million after that, and then of course the Jets could franchise him for 2022. But he has said he wants a new deal.
He deserves
before
it
this year.
He deserves it. He deserves it. How does that sound?
Yeah, what did Howie Long say?
deserves
He's a
it.
card-carrying badass.
He should be irked, but if he's going to say to the Jets, I will not take your $3 million and I'll sit out, that's his prerogative. And that, to me, is the only option the Jets have. You can't trade him now and then say to the fan base, we'll win without him, and that 2021 draft, man, we're gonna have that in the back pocket. The impasse could have easily happened in April as opposed to May. And if you do want to trade him, you could cash in those picks on the spot and get someone for Darnold to catch a ball. Or get someone for Darnold to keep him upright so he can throw the ball. Or get somebody who can make a play on defense so Darnold can get the ball back. It's all about your quarterback.
Yeah, great stats. Since 2011, there have been 223 first-round picks. Only 16 have gotten a new contract after their third year. McCaffrey did it this year, obviously. He was 2 spots after Adams in the 2017 draft.
Jamal Adams is special, man. And he means a lot to Jets fans, if that means anything to the Jets. And this may be all posturing, and Joe Douglas might be sitting at home saying, chill out. RELAX. You can't trade him. You can't just trade him.
I mean, we'll take him.
You know what? I honestly don't even know. I honestly don't even know what their situation is at this position. But one guy who knows this kid, and would raise their hand, and I would trade a 1 right now for him. I'm Tampa. I don't know what they are in that position. They might be set. Buccaneers fans may be saying, what are you talking about, Rich? We're set at the safety position. Todd Bowles knows all about this kid. I bet you he loves Todd Bowles. And you want to win now? Screw it. Get him. Get it and win now. And the only reason why I would hold off on it is because I'm concerned if there's going to be a playing season or not. And the last thing I want to do is flip a 1 for a season and try and win it all in a season that I have no idea when it's going to kick off. And in front of whom? I don't even know what their depth chart is there.
Mike Edwards and Andrew Adams.
All due respect to them.
Yeah.
There's another Adams. I don't even feel better.
I was going to say, how does that feel to get that?
Because I saw that yesterday, and I'm
like,
like, come on, not again. Their best defensive player in the secondary. There's a contractual dispute again, and you want to trade him again. So we might as well just cut out the middleman and send him to New England, or maybe we'll just repeat it. Send him to Tampa. They'll win a Super Bowl with him, and then they'll send him to New England, and then we'll see Jamal Adams twice a year and see him celebrate with Stid and Bill. Or send him to Dallas. That's his wish. That's what he wants to do.
That's
Dallas
where he wants to go, yeah.
But Dallas can't afford him.
No. Not with,
I don't know how much pie you can have, man.
When Andy Dalton's
They're
the
out of pie.
quarterback, there's plenty of pie. So,
844-204-RICH, number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. Nate Boyd's going to be joining us shortly. What's our poll question that you can vote on at Rich Eisen Show right now, Christopher? What do you have?
So we're going for it. You went in on Rudy again yesterday. I think you basically called it Game of Thrones without the dragons.
That's correct. That's how much of a fantasy it is.
And so it's been a big debate, obviously, on if it's a great sports movie or is it not. So we're just going to go right for it. What's the most overrated sports movie? These are the two that people talk about the most as being the most overrated, so we're just going for it. Rudy or Hoosiers?
How dare you?
What's the most overrated sports
Now,
movie?
who was the one who tweeted at me again about?
Jorge Sedano.
That's right, correct.
Yeah, Jorge Sedano.
Right, he tweeted at me saying, that I agreed that I was right about Rudy, but wrong about Hoosiers. That's overrated, and I say, how dare you?
Yes,
that's absurd. It's the best sports movie of all time. It's about a coach seeking redemption. It's about a father and son story. Dennis Hopper and his kid. By the way, interesting enough, same director, same writer, same music, same everything. Rudy and Hoosiers. Okay.
I think they're both great, but there's a lot of hate on either side. For
now,
these movies.
I don't understand how there's any hate about Hoosiers. The only thing I'm particularly proud of is, I guess, the big lead picked up on this.
Sure, yeah.
And this is another reason why I love being on NBC and NBCSN and how they're great partners, how they let us do our thing, right? Is that I have used the platform of the network of Notre Dame football to get my Rudy distaste noticed in a manner that it took 5+ years to get noticed.
You have been going in on Rudy
I don't know
pretty much since I've known you.
Oh, my God. Because, again, I'm a Michigan guy. I hate everything Notre Dame. I shouldn't say that. I like Brian Kelly. I like when he comes on the show.
Jerome Bettis is our friend.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, of course.
I mean, anything. But the fact is that Notre Dame owns everything that's right about football.
Pretty much
and
the
none
truth.
of it, and it's more special than anybody else.
True.
Okay. And
Major network
and then
every
Notre Dame
week.
is filled with fans just like Mike Del Tufo, who have nothing to do with the school because they're from New
we have a
Jersey.
lot
They
to
didn't
do
go
with
to
it.
the
We love
school.
it.
You grew up in a state where what are you going to do? Root for Rutgers? Like
Sister,
literally, how many fans of Notre Dame
went there.
are
Family
there in
relations.
New Jersey? There's tons of them. Because what am I going to do? Root for Rutgers? Like
Nah, we don't.
that's your Notre Dame fandom. What am I going to do? Go to Piscataway?
No.
Literally. So, yeah. When I see Rudy, like, there's never been another school ever that had a walk-on that got on the team and it was their life dream because they loved the school, and the school is a special place, not just for them, but for also the alums. But no, let's get Charles Dutton. Slow clap. Like that happened. Literally, I see that I see Dracarys. We might as well just have 7 kingdoms.
You gonna scorch earth on Samuel's dad?
Yeah. Might as well. Just as much of a fantasy.
Wow.
Rich.
But Hoosiers? Come on.
It's terrible.
Hoosiers is based on a true story.
So is
Terrible
Rudy.
people.
Rudy is.
Rudy was a real guy.
He was a real guy.
I'll say it again. Never
was
has the
carried
phrase.
off the field.
Never has the phrase based on a true story. Never has the word based done more heavy lifting.
I could watch the video. He got a sack in the game. They carried him off.
Everybody chanting. Vince
Cheering,
Vaughn chanting.
chanting.
John Favreau chanting. Pre-swingers.
They might have
Pre-swingers
taken a
chanting.
couple-
Pre-swingers
they might have taken
chanting.
a couple liberties
Come
when
on.
they made the movie, but it's a heartwarming movie. The
Trying to tell me
underdog
Jimmy
makes
Chitwood
it.
never missed? Everybody misses
Exactly.
shots.
He did miss after Coach Dale told him, I don't care if you join the team, which was exactly the thing he wasn't expecting from his coach, which is why he earned the respect of Jimmy Chitwood. Yeah. And the kids who he spent the entire movie trying to get to buy into his system, they finally did. Then the whole town bought into his system. It came time to win the championship, and he didn't want Jimmy to take the final shot. And the kids look at him, and he learned from the kids and gave Jimmy the final shot. Spoiler alert, which he made. Crescendo of music. Goosebumps.
Like the end of Rudy.
Yeah, like get to Rudy. He makes the sack and they win the game and they carry him off.
South Bend, Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Vote.
So close.
Vote. And I will say this. I'm in a mood because Jamal Adams is on the trading block reportedly. Hey, I will say this. There's never been a more important vote in the history of this Rich Eisen show about how I feel about you.
Oh, you see, that's you're tilting the scales now.
Hit that RT, Rich. Let's get this going.
Rich already, he has it secretly going out to all the whole Michigan alumni. They're voting. Right.
844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Here on the Rich Eisen Show, I've made my feelings clearly known on NBCSN.
Wow.
Nate Boyer, when we come back, don't miss this conversation. Very important. Don Bowie, our executive producer, have you heard from NBCSN? Have they called saying that we're not on in the next segment? Good, we're in the clear. Oh, no, they got their own network.
They do.
Got their own network.
The only team.
You know why?
The only team.
You know why? Because there's a bunch of people around the country whose parents passed it down from their grandparents, passed it down to you people. And by you people, I mean you live in a town where it's like, what am I going to do? Root for Rutgers? And whatever your Rutgers is, fill in the blank. Whatever your local Rutgers is, fill in the blank. What am I going to do? Root for that?
Does St. John's have a football team? Fordham's close to me. Hofstra, they have football teams.
Look at that.
We picked Notre Dame. Oh, yeah, look at that. Dublin, Ireland.
People in the chat room, Rich, want you to check your blood pressure. Just make sure you're all right with it.
They're playing in Lambeau Field.
Looking, nobody.
What other team's playing in Lambeau Field?
I love it. No, it's great. That'll be. I mean, I can only hope that they do actually visit many of these places.
I hope college they get to play.
They're going to play Wake in the home of the Panthers. They're going to play Wisconsin in the home of the Packers.
I get to see him at USC.
I mean, that's serious. I mean, you're going into some bellies of some beasts right there.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule. It is.
Well, certainly, definitely you're putting it all on the line against Duke. We know that, right?
Hey, Rich.
Wow.
I can show you your Powder Puff schedule, too. You have Michigan schedule.
Everybody's got them.
They all do.
Everybody's got them.
There's some that are down south that have it a little bit easier than others.
I understand.
I'm going to get destroyed by that
I understand.
Man, someone's trying to say the Natural's overrated?
What?
Oh.
What?
Now you're fighting me now.
What?
Now you're fighting me.
TJ, you're blocked.
What?
Now you're fighting me.
The Natural's overrated.
Now you're fighting me.
How's the Natural overrated? Look. People,
ask the wormhole.
This is, you know what this is like? This is the wormhole, folks. When you post stuff like that, it's kind of like Twitter just giving the name of an actor or an actress of us over the age of 70 as trending. Oh. We think they're dead, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there has to be some context. That's why I want Twitter. Twitter has to give you a font that indicates you're being sarcastic. And Twitter also has to, if there is a person of a certain age who's trending, has to be some sort of font where it's indicating some person's alive.
Exactly.
Okay? You can't just say Natural's overrated and then just leave. You can't just do that. It's the same thing. You can't just do that. There has to be some context. You have to say what the hell's going on in your head. Because there's something wrong.
Don wants me to bring up the Michigan schedule. Ball State and Arkansas State.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do? You got to play some states. Put up USC's schedule, Don.
They're playing Notre Dame. We play Notre Dame.
All right, we're in a mood here.
I mean, this is fantastic.
People on our YouTube stream want me to check my blood pressure today.
This is so good.
Listen to us on demand every single day on podcast when you just saw it up on our screen right there. Our podcast can be gotten podcast1.com/Rich Eisen. Our poll question, I ask you, sir, where does it currently stand?
Yeah, let's hope there's no James Dolan news today.
Oh, gosh.
All right,
okay, what is it
so we're looking at the
stand?
most overrated sports movie. You got two options, Rudy, Hoosiers. That's the list based on Rich's disdain for Rudy. Right now, 67% agree with you, Rich. Rudy, overrated.
Well, I don't know if people are just going to agree with me because it's me, pounding the table. I just think, again, there's no question Hoosiers is a better movie than Rudy. And I understand why people like Rudy. I totally understand. Because people love, like, for instance, why do people play Dungeons and Dragons? They just like that sort of fantasy world. Seriously, it's like, let's roll a 20-sided die and see if Rudy's going to make it on the field.
I mean, careful, Manganella's listening.
That's true. Joe Manganiello loves his Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of sports movie, our next guest actually, if I'm not mistaken, is got a script, making one, which is one of the many reasons why I love checking in with Nate Boyer, because you never know what this longtime Green Beret, former long snapper in the world of college and professional football is up to. And we all know he is part of Merging Vets and Players. He founded it with Jay Glazer now 5 years ago. Our friend Nate Boyer is here on the show. How are you, Nate?
I'm good, Rich. I'm a walk-on.
You are? Okay.
I'm a walk-on, and I grew up a Notre Dame fan because the local team was the Cal Bears, and they weren't very good. And so I just, like you said, you just adopt it.
That's
even
right.
When you're in Berkeley, California.
So you were like, you grew up like, who am I going to root for? The Cal Bears? And you try to root for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which you did. Now, are you saying, hold on a second, Nate, because this would crush me and my argument into many pieces. Are you saying Rudy was an inspiration for you, Nate?
Negative.
Okay.
I'm saying Joe Montana and Tim Brown were inspirations to me.
Okay, fantastic. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are, I guess, people that you know in the veteran community doing? Let's start with that to kick off our Memorial Day weekend conversation here, Nate.
Yeah, well, that's case by case for sure. But you know what? I think during this time, I've been really, really proud of a lot of people. And yes, like, isolation is one of the biggest killers, figuratively and literally, for the veteran community. And it's obviously everybody's feeling a bit of that right now, and it's really hard. But I'll tell you what, like, the resiliency and the way that the vets that I'm close to, whether they're a big part of MVP, of Merging Vets and Players, or not, they've found things to do, ways to be of service. I mean, especially here in LA, I've just, like, countless stories of these guys and girls going way out of their way to find a way to help somebody get something done. Somebody that can't do it on their own, and like they just. Times like this happen, and it's like they come alive. It's like a deployment. It's an opportunity. Like, okay, I got a mission now, something to fight for. Like, what can I do? There's got to be something because we're a mess right now as a country in a lot of ways. So, like, how can I be utilized? And that's been really inspirational.
Well,
me.
and I do know, and part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on this weekend in particular, Nate, is it was about a year ago at this time I attended my first Merging Vets and Players, I guess, Wednesday night workout, and then post-workout sit-around confab. And by the way, by sit-around confab, and this is what's so amazing about your organization that you founded with Jay Glazer at vetsandplayers.org, is you get together, work out, work your body, and then work your mind afterwards, and sit around and talk about veterans and players fresh off of their playing careers. Just discuss about what's going on in their minds and how they can feel a part of the world. And that Memorial Day weekend in particular is the toughest weekend for many who have fought and served. And I want to give you the floor as to why and how everybody can go about their business this weekend and make sure that they don't say the wrong thing and actually do the right thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that, Rich. It is a tough time. It can be like a very somber weekend, and we're obviously memorializing. That's why it's called Memorial Day. Those that have fought and paid the ultimate sacrifice, and a lot of us in the veteran community served alongside those people, became very close with those people. They were our brothers and sisters, not only in arms, but literally became our brothers and sisters. I mean, you're on a deployment overseas. I went on 3 of them, which is nothing compared to some people. I know guys that have been on 13 of them. But you go over there, and maybe you don't know anybody when you first get there on your squad or whatever, depending on how you deploy. But you become incredibly close with them incredibly fast. You're living with these people, and then you're out there training, and then you're in a combat situation, potentially shedding blood alongside them. It's like you bond with those people in a really, really tight way. And then when you lose one of those people, it's very hard in the moment, and it doesn't go away. It's not something that just passes with time. It's always there. And it's days like this that can be really challenging. They definitely can be really challenging. And all of us in the vet community, especially when we're done serving, we lose a piece of that identity and purpose and that sense of belonging to something bigger than us. And so it can be such a challenge, but there's so many ways to look at it though too. And that's something that we preach in MVP is like understanding that you sacrificed and risked so much to fight for those that can't fight for themselves, right? And because you did make it back, maybe you've been living with survivor's guilt, but you also have survivor's responsibility to live a life in honor of those that didn't make it back. Mm-hmm. You have that responsibility. So today, or I should say Monday, probably every day, should be somewhat of a day of inventory. And I stole that from somebody, a Medal of Honor recipient, but it's a great quote. He said, Memorial Day is a day of inventory. We're looking at myself, saying, am I doing all the things I promised I would do when I signed up, when I took that oath, when I met, in my case, my best friend Brad overseas, and I told him I was going to go try and be a football player. And then when Brad's gone, like, am I going to do that? Am I fulfilling that promise? Am I going to chase that dream? Because if I'm not, that you're not living up to that promise for them. You know what I mean? And the last thing I would want is them to be looking down from heaven and saying, in their heads, like, Nate, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, what did I die for, man? I mean, come on. I don't want you to cry for me every day. Like, of course I want you to miss me. We all want to be remembered, but like, how are you living your life? Are you chasing down what you said you were going to chase down? Are you pursuing that American dream of yours? Because that's what I want for you, and because that's what I would want if I wasn't here. And I'm pretty sure everyone's in that same boat, and that includes people that have died by their own hands back here at home. The suicide epidemic's a big one, and it's really hit the veteran community hard. So with all that being said, like, just make this a celebration. This day should be a celebration, honoring those people, remembering those people. Have a hot dog, have a beer, maybe go on a hike and get closer to them. Do the Murph Challenge in honor of Michael Murphy. Something like that to like remember those people this day, but enjoy it and celebrate it.
And in terms of that, Nate, I mean, obviously those are incredible words and powerful words, and hopefully any veterans out there, as you say, who have survivor's remorse or are just hearing us and watching us can hear that. But in the final moments I have with you here, what about mere civilians? I remember that there was a request of civilians what to say on Memorial Day that would not perhaps send somebody in the wrong direction if they are remembering and grieving while trying to celebrate the memories.
Yeah, I mean, you could say thank you in various ways, but also say, I would suggest saying something like, and I understand this might be a really hard day for you, but I just really want you to know I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody that I didn't get to meet, that didn't make it back, that you fought alongside or you're remembering. And if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Like, I want to help you. I want to fight for you. You fought for us. I think that's the best way to do it, just to show that you care and you're listening. There's not a perfect phrase or anything like that, but just to understand that, like, first of all, Veterans Day and Memorial Day are different things, but also just like it's not supposed to be, to me anyway, it's not just supposed to be this downer day. It is a celebration. We're remembering the date. It's a holiday for a reason. But just, have a little bit of sensitivity and thought in that, especially you're out on, well, maybe people aren't out on the beach like normal, but, you're decked out in the red, white, and blue and doing the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But just understand why we're doing it. And if you, come across a veteran, make sure and thank them, spend a few minutes, talk to them, and then just let them know that, your thoughts are with them and, like, you appreciate not only their service, but those that aren't here today.
Love you, Nate. Thanks for calling in, man. What you and Glaze do for vets and players, merging vets and players, vetsandplayers.org being the website. Awesome. You take care of yourself.
You too, Rich. Love you, brother.
Right back at you. That's Nate Boyer. Went back and forth tours of duty also with the University of Texas. Remember Pete Carroll in Seattle gave him a shot.
That's right.
This is great.
Yeah, great dude.
Oh, man. And then he's trying to make a movie here in Los Angeles about a sports movie.
Sweet.
I know. And once hopefully COVID-19 will be done sooner rather than later and get the movie business back going, and Nate will make what he wants to make. Look, the phrase again, Happy Memorial Day. Just be careful when you tweet it out. That's all I'm saying. Hey, everybody, have a happy Memorial Day. Just know how that might land with some certain people. And there's obvious sensitivities, and I wanted to bring that to the attention of everybody here. But as Nate said, hopefully people can at least celebrate memories and celebrate what people meant, what it meant for them when they were on the front lines. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. In our final hour of this Friday before we head into the 3-day weekend, Terry Crews will be joining us. Another guy who spent some time in the National Football League, who has gone on to great things, if not greater things. He's now hosting America's Got Talent. Okay, he's been hosting it for a bit, and he's on NBC. And Sofia Vergara, speaking of Joe Manganiello, has been added to the cast this year. Howie Mandel is one of our guests on Tuesday's show.
All right.
There you go. And Clay Helton of USC Football will be joining us to wrap up our show. But your phone calls at 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Who knew this sports movie conversation that we started at the beginning of the week would go throughout the entire week? That's one of the beauties of this program that talks sports and pop culture. I can't believe this is an actual question that we are posing with the Rich Eisen Show logo involved. The most overrated sports, Rudy. Rudy or Hoosiers?
Look at Rudy on the side. Look at how good that looks.
He looks so great.
You know, it's interesting.
5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing.
With touchdown Jesus behind him.
You know, I just had an interesting epiphany about Sean Astin.
Uh-oh.
And it's not Goonies related. Not Goonies related. Oh, gosh, this is going to be great. I can't wait to bring this to the people in our final hour of the Rich Eisen Show of the week.
Do I lean forward?
Yes.
I'm gonna fall.
Toes forward.
Is this the technology or the entertainment or the policy portion of this place?
Please fall. Please fall. Oh, I got it.
Dude. Dude, there's a light.
I mean, this is not.
Can you go backwards? You gotta turn, brother. Hi.
Dude, I'm not going to turn you around, or I'm not going to... Look at this.
Look at this.
This is not going to end well. Do we have that drop? What could possibly go wrong, or do we don't have that out here?
No, I don't have
Did you just dab?
Yeah, I'm flying right now. Woo!
There's definitely some... oh, my God. There's expensive equipment that is going to go... Oh, not into the television. That would be great TV, though. Into the screen.
It's a good workout. It's like a thigh master.
I'm glad we got this out of our system after George Will walked out of here.
Oh, he's too quiet.
Look at this.
I mean,
Law, do you want to...
By the way,
now I want to see Law try.
By the way, Chuck Todd has to broadcast an inauguration tomorrow, and we're making.
By the way, I am killing it right now.
Look at you now. This is definitely not going to end well.
Somebody's getting a little.
Look out!
All right, I'm good. How do I get off?
I don't know.
How do I stop this crazy thing? Jane, help! I knew this was not going to end well.
I'm really in pain. I'm really hurting.
Oh my God!
I fell on the mic pack.
KT!
Are you all right? Are you seriously hurt?
Yeah.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Yeah, that's been the nation. I'm going to tell you that every time.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
That is truly unbelievable.
Live from the AT&T studios in Los Angeles. Earlier on the show, Bleacher Report senior NBA writer Howard Beck, Colts head coach Frank Reich, former Green Beret Nate Boyer. Coming up, host of NBC's America's Got Talent, Terry Crews, USC head coach Clay Helton. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Final hour of this Friday program right here in Los Angeles, California, getting set for a 3-day weekend here on NBCSN, as well as youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Check out all of our videos in our entire library over the weekend. If you need something to do, go down a wormhole. Hit the subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate it. We say hello to everybody out there who watches us all 3 hours on our stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, Sirius XM. Channel 211 is the way you can listen to us. Podcast One has our podcast every single day. There's really no way you can avoid us, is basically what I'm saying. Chris Brockman, the latest in the Andy Reid collection. That's the way I've introduced you now all 3 hours. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Where did the Hawaiian look come from
This
today?
is actually a Miami vibe from our Super Bowl week.
Oh.
Yeah. Figured I'll dust them off on Fridays.
Okay.
Kind of get the spirit in the weekend.
And what sort of vibe are you going for, Mike Del Tufo?
It's pretty
are you
much
going...
the everyday vibe. I did go with a white shirt today, not a black one, so it's like I changed up a little.
But again, you didn't pay for anything that you're wearing, correct? Once again?
My shorts, I may not have.
I guess I should ask questions I don't want to know the answer to. I shouldn't
Probably
ask those
not.
questions. Our phone lines are lit, and people are kind of all over the map, whether it's about our poll question or about what we've talked about on this show. Frank Reich, Nate Boyer just joined us, the Green Beret who spent 3 years of tours of duty abroad fighting for our country, also then coming back and long snapping as a walk-on for Texas. Now, that wouldn't be a bad story. That wouldn't be a bad movie, right?
I'd watch that.
I would watch that.
Absolutely.
Great walk-on story right there. Our poll question, Chris, because we've had sports, movies, conversations throughout the entire week, and my distaste for the film Rudy, because I'm a Michigan Wolverine, and that's where it comes from. I mean, and I hope people can understand that spite where it comes from.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because I feel my alma mater is a very special place. I feel like my football program is a very special program. I don't need to see a film about Notre Dame being placed on such a pedestal. Certainly, since when you hear about Rudy's story, the word based in a Rudy's true story, that's doing some particularly heavy lifting. So my point is that Rudy is just as a fantasy film, it's just a fantasy as much as Game of Thrones. I think I've been making the wrong analogy, so I'll say my bad here.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh, where's he going?
Well, I mean, because I'm saying Game of Thrones is a fantasy, and so is Rudy. Rudy, played by Sean Astin, I'm choosing the wrong medieval fantasy.
I know. Yeah, I know where you're going.
He was in The Hobbit. So Sean Astin's been in 2 fantasy films. I mean, he played Samwise and he played Rudy. Okay.
Wow.
And they were both going for the Precious.
Oh, my goodness.
Their own
Notre
version of
Dame's
the
got
Precious.
more Preciouses than a lot of other Preciouses.
More Preciouses than my alma mater. I understand. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I know where it was going.
Didn't Sean drop an F-bomb to you when you brought this
I
Rudy
brought
thing
this
up
up
to him?
as I say the line that I've been using since I was in school at Michigan is that I'm the only person who watches Rudy hoping he pops a quad. Oh, can't play.
Can't say that.
I do say it every time. I said it to him.
But
he
you see,
cursed
you
at
believe
me.
he played
He
then.
cursed at me.
See, he believes
cursed at
he
me.
played.
That's how much Sean Astin loves Rudy, and I understand that movie means a lot to him.
But you believe he played then. So you know
I do
he was
believe
part
he
of the-
played. I just don't believe the way it's portrayed was the way it went down.
I mean, they probably took a couple liberties.
Didn't Golick say that he was never really carried off the field? That the whole
They said
crowd was
everyone
not
was
chanting his
doing it
name?
as a joke.
Well, we definitely
Yes.
know there was nobody in the Charles Dutton rule slow clapping in the behind
Now
the
the
stadium
field
because they
guy, the head
heard it.
field
Because they
guy-
heard it. They heard it.
Joe Montana says they kind of made fun of him and they carried him off as a joke. Joe Montana said that. So Joe Montana would have been like a freshman that year.
Do you believe Joe Montana? Or
I
do you
love
believe
Joe Montana,
or do you-
but of course I think
or
it's,
do you
there's
believe
a couple liberties.
Or do you believe Frodo's friend?
Joe Montana's just jealous he never had a movie made about him.
Ooh.
So, for some reason, how did Hoosiers get pulled into this conversation?
Jorge Sedano, ESPN radio guy,
Yes.
he doesn't like Hoosiers either. So he kind of brought this up. They were talking about it on Le Batard today, so we just went, like, hey.
Okay, so what's our poll
What's
question?
the most overrated movie, Hoosiers or Rudy? Right now, 65% say Rudy.
Who are the 35% that think Hoosiers is overrated?
Oh, the people just don't like certain movies.
What I don't understand. How's that overrated? You just want to talk
I love
actors? Gene Hackman says, I'll do a sports movie? Gene Hackman? I'll do a sports movie, says Gene Hackman. Come on.
Some people wanted Bull Durham on this list.
Come on now.
The Natural.
The Natural.
I mean,
The Natural.
That's sacrilegious.
Now,
right there.
you want to talk about. Here's the thing about The Natural. Now, I'm about to give you guys a little bit of an English lesson.
Go ahead.
Have you ever. That's based on a book, not a true story, based on a novel by the great author Bernard Malamud. Have you ever read the book?
No.
I have. Don't worry, because I know you're, Mike, I just look at you. I know people like you. I grew up with people like you. You were the king of Cliff Notes. You didn't read books.
Oh,
You just went to Cliff Notes.
Love
okay?
Cliff Notes.
Or Monarch Notes.
I had to read a
Of course you
report
did.
live in a class
you
because the
did.
teacher swore I didn't read the book,
Right.
and I used the Cliff Notes.
Okay.
Needless to say, used the Cliff Notes.
You went Cliff Notes.
Yep.
For those of a certain age who might not know, that was just you didn't read the book. You read a version of the book that was broken down just so you could know how to write your book reports.
Yep. Oh.
Total cutting of the corners.
Wikipedia,
it was
free.
There you go.
Wikipedia
Wikipedia before its time.
Yep.
There you go. Bernard Malamud in The Natural, Roy Hobbs took the money. Spoiler alert.
the movie's different, right? Yeah.
They couldn't make the movie where Roy takes the money and throws the game. Yep. So they made a beautiful film that Robert Redford, a beautiful human, says, I will do a sports movie.
He's a beautiful woman.
Barbara Hershey, Glenn Close, Joe Don Baker playing the Whammer.
The Rock.
If I'm Max Mercy, played by Robert Duvall.
Oh, yeah, Kim Basinger's in that
Oh,
movie.
so I'm sorry, it wasn't Robert Duvall. It was Joe Philbin, the
Nice.
football coach. Robert Duvall and Robert Redford said, I will do a sports movie. Gene Hackman said, I will do a sports movie. All right, let's take some phone calls here. Adam in South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
man.
Oh, the home of Rudy.
Let's go.
Right in there. What's up, Adam?
Rudy sucks.
Move out of South Bend.
Come on.
I've been born and raised here. I went to Indiana and Butler, and I know that when I'm from South Bend, every single person just chimes on that movie like it's glory. And I'm going to be the first person to say, and I'm not giving out my last name, and I hope people don't know my voice. But
You better not
I'm
dare.
telling you right now, it's just garbage. And I liked it as a kid. You know, it's motivational growing up. But then I'm an English major, and once you learn like kind of script writing and stuff like that, it's like, you know what? No one would do that, and that's kind of cheesy. So finally, I think Hoosiers actually, like you said, has a plot line. It's actually a developmental movie, not just some kid who winds his way onto a #1 football team in the nation.
So let me ask you a question, Adam. You went to Butler. Whose field house did Hickory win a championship in? Whose field house?
Oh, Hinkle Fieldhouse. I've been there. I knew the whole football. I knew the back-to-back national runner-up championship team. I lived right next to him.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the call, Adam. Greatly appreciated. And in that field house, Coach Dale took out a tape measure, and he measured from the rim to the floor. He measured from the free throw line to the end line. And the kids from Hickory, who were overwhelmed by the setting, the stage, the large field house, realized same dimensions. Doesn't matter how big the moment is. It just matters how you handle it.
The first
Words
line.
to live by.
The first line.
Words to live by.
In
Ways
Hoosiers'
for-
Wikipedia page, the film is very loosely based.
There you go. Rudy, let's go to Rudy.
Very loosely based.
Excuse me, Wikipedia, we just identified as the Cliff Notes of our generation that also anybody could go in and have their fun with. It was on my Wikipedia page, I believe for a full calendar year, somebody put in the fact that my nickname was White Mamba. That is I've never been called that.
Rich,
can't disprove that.
I was Rich White Mamba Eisen on Wikipedia for a long time until somehow I think I threatened. Nick in Michigan. What's up, Nick?
Let's go Blue, my man. How you doing?
Right back at you. What's on your mind today?
So this is going off of you talking about how Notre Dame can't be the only school to, claim to have all the glory of having a walk-on or whatever, right? So I have a proposition for you. I'm a current film student at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
You can produce it. I'll direct it. We're going to make a film called Brian. It'll be about Brian Griese walking onto the Michigan football team, leading to the team as a starting quarterback, taking them to a national championship. Boom. Brian,
settle down just a little bit.
All right. Thank you for the call. Hey. Listen. I'm a Michigan man, through and through, right? I bleed it to the point where
I have on the desk.
Look at my helmet right here, okay? Right here. It's the only knick-knack I have here on this desk. My book that I take notes in, you can't see it here, but there's a Michigan, you probably can see it's a Michigan M on it, all right? Okay? I wouldn't want to see that movie about Brian Griese. I'll admit it. By the way, Brian, he sounded like a young man. Brian's song is one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
Movie.
Okay?
Amazing.
So you can't. I don't even know if Griese would be the story on that. Charles Woodson would be the story of that team, right? What do you think? Hutch? Tom Brady? Young Tom Brady? 97? I was sitting there. A set of Sports Center watching my team have to split the national title. Because Tom Osborne got the mother of gold watch retirement gifts from half the voters.
Geez. Oh, God.
Here we go.
Thanks, Tom. Way to take knees instead of trying to win games.
Here we go.
Way to take yeah. Wasn't that the year they also got a fifth down against Missouri? Yeah.
I don't know about
that. You want to relitigate the 90s like The Last Dance. I got a Last Dance for you. I got a Last Dance for you.
But they had that crazy flea flicker, too, that worked also.
Fernando in New Jersey, Mike Del Tufo's hometown. What's up, Fernando?
Rich, first of all, I'm over 40. I grew up loving you on SportsCenter, so as a broadcaster, you're amazing. I just want to get that out there.
Thank you for saying that.
Real quick, whoever thinks Hoosiers is overrated needs Jesus. I'm sorry. Let me just say that, too. I'm sorry.
I think they did seeing Rudy, though, right? Didn't they? Okay. Sorry, Fernando.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not a fan of Rudy either, so I'm with you on that, Rich.
Okay.
Rich, a quick NFL question for you, because I really trust your football IQ.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a big Cowboy fan here in New Jersey. For some reason, maybe I'm trying not to be like the obnoxious Cowboy fan that there is out there, but it seems like they're going under the radar. Like they have a much better coach this year, a much better defensive coordinator, Mike Nolan. They still have very good talent on offense. Their defense is, suspect, but why is nobody really talking about them in the NFC? I'm kind of disappointed in that, Rich. I just want to hear
here's the reason why the Cowboys aren't being discussed that way is because last year was such a major disappointment, and McCarthy, I'm excited to see what he's got. But I mean, and he's gonna be coaching with a chip on his shoulder too, because the way that Bleacher Report handled the reporting of the end of his tenure in Green Bay really did a number there. And how, he's got a chip on his shoulder. I can't wait to see what it looks like, man. But for the moment, though, I mean, I know that you're a Cowboy fan in New Jersey, and everybody, they're America's team, and people love the Cowboys everywhere. How many other 8-8 teams have we been talking about on this show? The only reason why I talk about a 7-9 team in the Jets is that's my team, and I guess that's the only reason why I bring that up. And plus, they're the only team that's thinking of trading away their star defensive player because they don't want to pay him.
Rich, if I can just say real quick, I went to the Jets-Cowboy game last year with my dad. My dad's a big Jet fan.
Yep.
And you know what? Even though I hate taking L that day, I was happy for my father.
Yes.
But it was amazing. It was amazing. Like that pretty much summarizes the 10 years of Jason Garrett.
Different.
How poorly coached that game was.
And thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Difference between them winning the East and not. If you want to choose a game, how the hell did they lose to the Jets? How the hell that happened? One of my favorite moments of the year last year. One of my favorite moments of the year last year. We were in London. We did the London game between. That was the one between Carolina and Tampa, in Tottenham, which is a beautiful stadium, unbelievable. The new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and yeah, you went there yourself, exactly, over Christmas break. At any rate, we're done with the game. We go out to dinner. It's me and Susie and Mariucci and his wife and Kurt. I don't know if, Kurt. I don't think Brenda made it this year. A couple of Susie's friends who live in London, and Irv. And Michael Irvin is watching. We're watching the Jets and the Cowboys. He's watching it on his iPad because we had the Game Pass. He's sitting there in the restaurant watching it on his iPad. And I'm got my phone, and it's on an app that's a play ahead of Michael. And it's one of those apps that's not showing the game, but it's, you're
seeing like the,
the dots and all that sort of stuff. Sure. And so the Cowboys go for it on fourth down inside the Jets' red zone. Don't make it. I knew that was about to happen before that happened. And then the next play is when Darnold went yard. I think it was like an 88-yard or something crazy like that. And you know how these things happen on your app where the dot goes from one end to the other and it says touchdown?
You know, exactly. And
you're thinking, how could that possibly happen? That's a major play. That's 80-some-odd yards. How the hell did that happen? But it's dot goes, touchdown.
Touchdown.
And Irv's just sitting there like this, miserable that the Cowboys didn't score on fourth down. He's beginning to get the sense it was the end of first half, that this is not going to be Dallas's day and that the season's about to go sideways. And Michael, after the fourth down play, says, I'm out of here. Guys, look, I try to be social for dinner, but I need to go back to the hotel to watch the rest of this. And I say to Michael, just sit down. One more play. Just one more play. Just see how it goes. Because we want you to stay. We want you to stay. Rest of the table had no idea what I was doing. The rest of the table was like, come on, yeah, Michael, we want you here. Come on, sit. All right, sits down. Touchdown. And he looks at me. He goes, okay. And just gets up and walks out.
How about the Cowboys?
Caught the first cab. Out.
I mean, did he pitch in for dinner?
No. He did not.
I
was
was
still waiting.
Oh, he was probably
no
really
pounds,
mad.
Baby. No pounds on the table.
Oh.
That's okay. It was worth it. Michael, please, just stay one more play. And everybody's just like, hey, Michael, just sit. We want you to stay here. And I knew it was about to get worse for him. And it was the Jets' high point of the season. Oh, God. Let's take a break. Terry Crews of America's Got Talent, and then Clay Helton of USC Football, and more of your phone calls here on this Friday show.
Rich, that was fantastic.
Who do we want to go for here? David in Oceanside's been hanging on for over an hour. Let's take his phone call. What's up, David? Dave?
Hey, Rich.
How are you,
doing?
Dave?
Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, brother. What's on your mind?
I'm going to talk to you. First, I want to say, Chris, congratulations on the baby.
Yay.
Thanks, Dave.
And,
appreciate that.
and my wife wants to know, we've been watching you on TV, and she wants to know if you're going to change the baby diaper in that shirt this weekend.
Sure, I totally can.
And
actually, he's planning on diapering his child with the shirt.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
if that's what you
And
meant.
Mike Delfo, enjoy your boat this weekend.
Thank you.
But,
Thank
nice.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I wanted you to get Mark Cuban. I listened to an interview with him yesterday, and he had a very good idea about getting people in the seatings in the stands. He says it's not going to happen for a while, but you get him if you can on the, because I don't want to screw up everything.
Sure.
But he has a great plan. And it's really good.
On how to police it, because that's what we were talking about at the end of our first hour. I know that might have inspired you to wait for an hour.
Right.
So he's got an idea of how to put people's...
How to get families that have been, staying together in
Correct.
their homes.
Okay.
Getting to them to the stadiums. scan them, but you'll sit in clusters. So you're not going to sit like when you said that you're not going to sit 6 feet away from your 7-year-old son.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He'd be able to sit next to you. You know what I mean? And you'd
Yes.
be in the family. So
Thanks for the call, and thank you for the
Can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
The technical referee engineering
Yes.
position that they're voting on.
Yes, sir.
So my wife and I were doing our taxes this year.
Okay.
And I said to her, she goes, "Hon, I don't want to do bartender anymore." And I said, "Okay." I said, "How about being a liquid distribution engineer?"
I like that
She
title.
goes, "I like it." She goes, "Put it on the tax form."
There you go. So
yeah,
maybe
and
you're.
don't forget to have Chris Law run around the new stadium, because years ago you guys made a bet with the quarterback from his college,
Oh,
Penn
yeah?
State, and he never made a start in the NFL. And he made a bet with you guys to run around the stadium once it's built in his underwear.
Dave, you have been a fan for
Long
quite some
time.
time. You're
Thanks,
pulling
Dave.
4-year-old
Thanks, Dave.
references. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it. We found out who came up with the term senior technology advisor.
Liquid distribution.
That's not bad.
Distribution
Hey, you're the
engineer.
one. You're the audio executive.
I
You've got to really
love
appreciate
terms
that.
like that.
That's
I
a
appreciate
serious
that,
bunch
Dave.
of crap right there.
That's perfect title.
Is that the new title of Mike's memoir? Serious bunch
No,
of crap.
The last mix.
The
I've
last
changed-
mix.
It could be
Well, that
last
could be.
mix.
Hold on, last bartender's mix.
It could be
work for
last
both.
mix : serious bunch of crap. Like, you know.
Or he could write another book from the author of Serious Bunch of Crap.
The last mix.
The medium-selling author.
I love it.
All right, we're back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show here on NBCSN and on NBC. Season 15 of America's Got Talent next week, Tuesday at 8 Eastern on NBC. And the man who is hosting that great program from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a man who has done a ton with his career after leaving the National Football League and is an inspiration to so many. Terry Crews back here on the program. How are you, Terry?
I'm doing good, Rich. How you doing, man?
Better for talking to you. Everybody fine in your world, your life, your family? Knocking on wood
Oh,
here?
man, we're doing good, man. We're doing good. I'll be honest with you, though. I mean, all this quarantine stuff, it sucks. It definitely sucks, you know. But I'm looking at it glass half full. We're alive, we're healthy, and we are ready to go, brother.
I look forward to that, and obviously seeing America's Got Talent next week, next Tuesday. A lot of fans are looking forward to that. And we'll talk about that in a second. Is there any time during this quarantine that you flipped the television on and have seen an old game of yours that you were playing in? Have you seen any?
No.
Has that happened at all, Terry, to you?
That has not happened. I mean, that's the internet, though. The internet always sent me old clips and all that stuff, but on TV, it doesn't get played that often. I was caught up in the whole Last Dance thing, man. Holy cow! Every weekend, I was glued to the TV, brother.
What'd you learn from that one?
You know what I learned, man, is you know what, and this is I had already learned this stuff. I mean, when I played in the NFL, but one thing I learned is that, you know, what is successful in sports is not necessarily successful in life. You know what I mean? Like, people think that there's a sports attitude. Yeah, that's the way to do it, and all of a sudden you'll be more successful in life. But a lot of times this stuff leads to things that I had to get rid of. You know what I mean? Like the whole competition aspect, the grudges, the fights, the whole thing. I'm like, man, you know, I'm glad I'm out of that, to be honest with you. It just reminded me of a lot of really pettiness that I had to really get out of my life. This is a very, very petty show.
That's
I tell you that right
fascinating. By the way, with you now working in Hollywood, saying that there's a scene more petty than that. That's a headline. Number one, but
Hollywood's the same way. It is. I mean, Hollywood and sports are. But again, people think. Remember, you got to understand. People think that successful actor. Oh my God, he must be a successful person. But let me tell you, we got 50 million examples of how that does not work.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same way. And my thing is that really, really, it's all about how you finish. You know what I mean? A lot of people put a lot of play on how you start, But to me, it's always been like, right now at 52 years old, I wouldn't go back to 21 or anything. I didn't know anything. But at the time, hey, he's on his way to NFL. He's doing all this great stuff. But it's really how you finish, brother. That's really what that makes the difference.
Well, I mean, you're touching on a few things. I want to pull on some of these strands with you, Terry. So when you say pettiness when you were playing and that you had to get rid of it, are you saying that this is the stuff that you thought you needed to do in order to succeed, and then you realized as you were getting out of sports that you didn't? I'm wondering what exactly are you referring to when you say that?
I am referring to I had, there are certain duels that you get. You feel like you have to beat a certain person in order to make it. I remember this is strange. I remember getting into fights on the bus in the NFL, you know what I mean? And people were, we would get mad at each other and the whole deal. And you carry those grudges, you know what I mean? Even for years, even after it's gone. And then you look back and you realize, and I have to be honest, the person that I was fighting on that bus is gone. He's dead. And you realize, wait a minute, man, there's things that are bigger than this. Because that game at one time was the biggest thing ever, but everybody's on to the new stuff. You know what I mean? If you're still holding on to this stuff, it can really, really wreck you. And that's the example that's one example of the pettiness that you can carry. That you realize, man, I'm mad against somebody who's not even here anymore. You know what I mean? So you got to just let it go.
Well, I mean, Jordan, Terry Crews here on the Rich Eisen Show. When you're talking about The Last Dance, it seems to me that when he would hold on to, he's still holding on to stuff. I mean, in a man in his late 50s with all the trophies in the case, and he's won in the way that we are viewing his style and the way he would deal with his teammates or talk to them or be with them, that we lionize it because he has 6 trophies, right?
Right. So first of all, you got to know, I love Michael Jordan for what he is, and I love everything about him. But then when you look at, the thing between him and Isaiah or him and Horace Grant, and you just wish they could all go out and have a lemonade, you know what I mean, and relax. It's like, dude, you guys have made it. You guys have won. And any bit of, and hopefully, I'm hoping that, behind the scenes that they were able to get together, but to hear that him and Isaiah have something at each other, because I grew up in Michigan with Isaiah Thomas, you know what I mean? And I loved Isaiah at the same time as I loved Jordan. And to see that, they're not getting along, hopefully. In the show, it looked like they didn't get along. And you just want people to be at peace with each other because you got to realize life is short, man. It's really, really short.
So are you saying, Terry, that that's not lemonade in that tumbler next to Jordan during The Last Dance?
Let's just say it's ice cold water. Let's just say
something, yeah. Could be some form of aid. I don't know. Yeah. But it's funny.
But we can all get caught into that, Rich.
Right.
Listen, I've been in there. I'm guilty. I'm not sitting here saying Jordan is. There are things that my wife has called me on. She's like, dude, you need to let that go. That was back when you were playing and all this stuff. And I'm like, you're right. You know what I mean? These are things that creep back up. And if you don't really do the due diligence of looking at examining your own thinking, you can be trapped by some of that stuff, man. And it doesn't matter how much money you make or how successful you are.
So what was it like and why'd you do it? Go to NFL Europe. Why'd you go to the Rhine Fire, Terry? Again, I just love your journey. We now know you obviously as a very successful actor, television host. You are a hyphenate now here in this town. But you are also a member of the Rhine Fire. I don't think anybody else on television can say something like that.
Let me tell you, I had been cut by the San Diego Chargers the year before, and what was crazy is that I was told once a week by my coach that they were going to bring me back, and they never did. And I mean, all 16 weeks of the NFL season. You have to understand, the next year, the Chargers went all the way to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And they still kept telling me, we're going to bring you back, we're going to bring you back. And I was crushed, man. I was waiting, paying my own rent, trying to stay in town for this team that I thought was going to bring me back, and they never did. And I thought going to the Rhine Fire was my only way back into the NFL. That was my thing. And it turned out it was. I was one of only 7 players in the whole NFL Europe to make it back into the league in that year.
Who else was playing with you in NFL Europe then? That we
Gino Torretta was playing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Oh my God, the big quarterback that just retired from the league from Indianapolis. I'm blanking out right now. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was a kid.
That's right. His Oliver.
Father, Oliver Luck,
right,
ran the league. And so Andrew was running around on the sidelines, just a litlittle kid, man. I was like, "Hey, Andrew, throw me that ball." And he's like, "Hey," you know. And now, you know, he's now retired and the whole thing. That just shows you how old I am. But
did you pick up German? Did you talk German?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I got a little bit. A lot of, you know, danke shit. You know.
There you go. That works. That works. You didn't take German in Western Michigan? You didn't do that?
Not at all. Not at all. You know. But this is the thing. I mean. You know, they didn't really want us over there either. It was not a very good thing. I mean, they weren't used to American football. It was kind of wild, and I thought it was going to be better than it was. And then I made it back and got picked up by the Redskins, and I was so happy to be back.
So what's the last football question for you, then we'll turn to your America's Got Talent. Best play Terry Crews, ever made in the NFL?
I was knocked out on Monday Night Football. I hit a guy so hard that I knocked myself out. Okay? Clarence Verdin, and this is so crazy. He was the smallest man in the NFL.
Right.
He was a kickoff returner, and I was on the kickoff, and I was on the Chargers. We were playing the Indianapolis Colts, and I come down on the kickoff, and bow! I knocked this guy. I busted his chin, and then I fall out, and I'm gone. I'm telling you, getting knocked out was the most peaceful feeling I ever felt in my entire life.
Come on.
I was back in the womb, Rich. I'm trying to tell you, man. I didn't have no up or down. There was no pain.
Right.
You knew that. That's why you get knocked out, because your body's like, okay, we quit. And but holy cow, what a headache I had afterward. But it was a hit, man. I got hit of the week, and they give you T-shirts for all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was crazy.
Back in the day. So that's when I ask you your best play you made in the NFL, you're saying it was when you got knocked out on Monday Night Football.
That's it. That was pivotal.
Oh,
pivotal.
My gosh. That's amazing.
Believe me, the whole crowd was like, yo. I mean, everybody. But I had to look at that on the replay because I did not remember it happening. Okay? I just looked at it when they played it back.
I bet. So maybe, again, we're in quarantine. We'll flip on, see that game with Terry Crews here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's talk America's Got Talent. It looks like you're having a blast doing this, Terry.
I love it. I love it. I tell my wife keeps telling me not to say this anymore, but I'm going to continue to say it because I would host this show for free. It is the most satisfying, most amazing. You are giving away dreams, dude. And you got to understand why I say that is because I actually hosted my high school talent show when I was in high school. You do that for free too. You know what I mean? So this was my destiny. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm walking into something I was always being prepared for and didn't know it. And my God, dude, it's just gigantic. It's the world's biggest talent show. It's so much fun. And dude, season 15, this is our best ever because we had to go through this whole COVID thing. Like, you won't believe this.
Yeah, tell me what that was like and what to expect here, Terry.
Well, you know, we've been super successful, so the crowds are always there. We had a full packed audience, and all of a sudden, you know, this is back when COVID was just a rumor.
Right.
We didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it was like a pool being drained. I mean, the audience got more and more sparse, and then Heidi got sick. And she quarantined herself just to protect everyone else because she thought, oh, my God, this is going around.
Right.
So we had 3 judges and finally went down to no audience. Rich, it was crazy. It was like, what is happening? It was almost like, I don't know what to say. It was like, the apocalypse was happening. You know what I mean? And you're going to see this happen literally episode by episode. And it's going to be crazy. All these comedians and acts had to perform with no audience.
Hey, I mean, I think for the return of sports, Terry, we're all going to have to get used to that, right? I mean, like this
the sports is the best way I could pretty much it's similar. Just because you can't have an audience anymore. But this is the deal. I think will be more successful simply because you have the people craving it. You know what I mean? Like, what can I say? I think, when I look at the AGT, just like I look at the NFL or an NBA. When you play something on TV, And it doesn't really matter if you were there or not. You're there in spirit. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be gigantic with all these people at home.
Yeah, and Sofia Vergara added to the crew and the cast this year. Her husband, Joe Manganiello, if you did get to meet him before everything shut down, I'm sure he might have been talking your ear off about football, too.
He's the man. I've known Joe for years. I actually did a movie with Sophia years ago called Soul Plane with a little guy named Kevin Hart. And nobody had ever heard of him at the time. He was just blowing up. And so she became literally one of the most famous people on earth.
True.
Since then. And it's wild to watch people grow and know that life keeps going. And like I said, it's truly how you finish, brother.
Absolutely. Hey, Terry, always love our chats. Always. Really
You're
do.
the man, Rich.
Right back
You're
at
the
you.
man.
Right back at you. Congrats as always on your success, and we'll be checking out America's Got Talent season 15 premiering next week on NBC Tuesday at 8 Eastern Time. We'll check it out.
Oh, you got it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right back at you. That's Terry Crews, at Terry Crews on Twitter, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. And also Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a great, funny television show with our buddy Joe Latrulio. Good stuff. How about that? Best play ever. Clarence Verdine.
I hadn't heard that in a very long time.
Ever. Clarence Verdine, right? And I'm assuming it's Bobby Ross who was telling him, we'll take you back. And then they made the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. Steve Young took care of business
Didn't
right
go
there.
well for them.
I know that. Let's sneak in another phone call here before Clay Helton joins us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Who's been holding the longest? The answer to that question would be Lupe in California. What's up, Lupe?
Rich.
How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. I'm just sitting here watching your show, and you're talking about the movies that were more realistic to real life stories.
Okay.
And I think the movie that was more realistic was like Cinderella Man.
Cinderella
as far as the boxing movie.
Yeah, sure.
Because I remember being a professional boxer, I had to fight often to make some money, to try to make some money. Because when you start as a professional boxer, you don't really make much money when you first turn pro. You're just a professional boxer, but you're not making big money. So I watched the movie Cinderella Man, and I said, that movie just hit me right in the heart.
That's amazing. And thank you for the call. I think Jeremy Schaap, didn't he write? He wrote a book about that. Jeremy Schaap, talk about chip off the old block.
Right.
For sure. Let's sneak in one more phone call before Clay Helton joins us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Joe in Temecula, California, just up the road. What's up, Joe?
How you doing, Rich? I just wanted to call and kind of chastise you a bit for your take on the 1997 season. First of all, the fifth down game was Colorado versus Missouri in 1990.
Okay, so that's right.
1990.
No, pardon me. It wasn't the fifth down game. It was a ball got kicked up in the air, right? That should have been a penalty.
That was against Missouri.
Okay, that was against Missouri. That's what I meant, not fifth down.
Okay. But it counted, and we won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would go into the bowl game. We were number one when and we went down to number two after that game, even though we won. We both go in unbeaten, untied. You guys barely beat the Ryan Leaf-led Washington State Cougars 21-16, and we destroy the Peyton Manning-led Tennessee Volunteers 42-17.
Mm-hmm.
And their last touchdown was an afterthought touchdown.
See, and that's and this is why I'm glad that we now have a national championship game to.
I wish we had played you guys after that game. I really do. I think we would have crushed you.
Well, we had the actual Heisman Trophy winner. You had the runner-up. We're the team that had to go from the Midwest all the way to Southern California and play a team that just hopped right down the coast.
We went to Miami every year.
No, I know that. I know that.
Down south. So that's. We had to actually go out there and play Miami, Florida State, Florida. You guys went out there and played Washington State, and, the Pac-10 when they weren't very good.
Let's just put it this way, Joe, because I got Clay Helton on the hold, and I think I've got to take a commercial break before getting to him. Can we at least both agree that Rudy stinks and is overrated? Can we at least agree on that?
I don't disagree that there's some fantasy in there. But I actually kind of like the inspiration of the movie.
I try to end on a good note. I have to disagree with him on every front now. Where's your fast finger to hang up when I need it, Mike? Clay Helton when we come right back. Okay, we're back here on the Rich Eisen Show. The head coach of USC is about to join us in short order in Clay Helton, which we greatly appreciate here on the show. Let's sneak in one more phone call before we do that. Let's go to Michael in Tacoma, Washington. What's up, Michael?
Hey, Rich, what's going on?
How are you, sir? What's on your mind?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's a long time, first time, and I do want to bring up the fact that I completely agree with the fact that whoever didn't vote for Griffey and whoever didn't vote for Jeter should be off the list.
You're mentioning something from, you know what? It's funny.
A while ago.
I know that, Michael. It's funny. I thought about that the other day, thinking about just how outraged I was about that sort of stuff, and I can't wait to get back into a sports world where that actually is normal. Right now, I wanted live sport, So what's on your mind? What else is on your mind?
Yeah, so do you think that the NFL will ever get – I wanted to ask a Jet question, but I know I'm on short, but I wanted to make sure I asked you this question.
Go for it.
Do you think the NFL will ever get to a point to where each team has a quarterback salary cap, and then the team has the rest of a salary cap? So then we can stop this taking for Tua?
That will never happen.
For this or that?
That will not happen. No, you just gotta, just like anybody else's household, you gotta take your budget and you gotta figure out what's important and what's not, and that's the difference. And thank you for the call. That's the difference in the NFL. Whereas in baseball, the haves and have-nots are dependent upon how much revenue certain teams have, right? In basketball, you can figure out. Obviously, you've got a cap that you can go over, right? The bird rights and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can pay luxury tax.
In football, everybody's got the same cap, same revenue. How do you spend your dollars? That's the difference, don't you think? How do you spend your dollars? And that's the conversation people are having with Dak right now. You can't have Dak 20% of your salary cap. You can't have any quarterback 20% of your salary cap. Wait till Patrick Mahomes gets signed. And that's, once again, just to bring it full circle, and we'll get Clay Helton on in just mere seconds. That's the difference between Dallas and other teams right now. They wait, and wait till you see Mahomes, what he signs for. They better get on it, because Clark Hunt said yesterday they're going to talk about contract with him this summer. They better get on it with Dak. Lickety split. Back in 10 seconds with Clay Helton. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. He is the head coach of football here in Southern California, the University of Southern California. He is Clay Helton here on the Rich Eisen Show. Thanks for holding, Clay. We appreciate the time, Coach.
No, thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me, buddy.
What's going on in your world right now? What's at the top of your to-do list as a head coach in this day and age?
Well, I've got 3 children by birth. I've got 110 adopted sons that are scattered from Connecticut all the way to Hawaii. So one is their health and safety priority one, and then 2, just keeping them in routine. Through this, we're over 60 days now, and to be able to keep them in routine, whether it's their health and wellness, whether it's their academics, whether it's their strength and conditioning, their nutrition, and just keeping their mind engaged in football. Is a daylight till dark process, and have just approached it like I said. These are my adopted sons, so I might as well have this phone and iPad duct taped to my head.
I bet you. I bet. So you are doing video conferencing, just like I guess what we're hearing a lot of NFL teams are doing. Is that what you're up to?
Yeah. The Zoom product and FaceTime has been huge in this whole process. Just to be able to see kids face to face or parents face to face. To be able to answer questions for them, to be able to calm fears, to be able to give them information, but 2, again, to keep them in routine. The NCAA was great to us. They allowed us 8 hours of engagement football-wise with our student athletes. So, we're having anywhere from unit meetings, the ability to go team meetings, unit meetings, position meetings, to continue to grow as players and to continue to engage their minds. And then using our strength and conditioning coaches as consultants Helton's being able to give these kids some equipment, strength bands, medicine balls, jump ropes, just so they can work safely at home and be able to give them ideas of what they can do at home in a safe environment.
Well, then how do you, in this day and age, though, with just Zoom, evaluate positions and, crucially, obviously, the quarterback spot? How do you do something like that?
Yeah, it's really hard until we get back together, which hopefully, the way everything's trending is looking like it's coming about. It's really hard. I mean, right now you're looking at the mental part of the game, and really our position coaches, I have to commend them, are doing a tremendous job of being able to really grow their mind. And the other aspect of this is just trying to keep kids in physical shape and nutritional shape. And our university has been great. We're supplying our kids additional meals, pre-prep meals, and nutrition packets, muscle milks. So when they go home and they get away from that training table, that they're actually able to get that calorie intake that they normally would have. So it's all been about keeping kids in routine and trying to give them the services that they need to stay in routine.
Clay Helton here on the Rich Eisen Show. When was the last time you talked to T.J. Daniels, Coach? JT Daniels. When was the last time you spoke to him? I transposed there.
JT and I talk every week, and working with his family as he works through the process. JT's such a great kid and a great player, and came to us in the spring and said, Coach, I'd like to evaluate all my options for 2020. USC is one of those options, and that door is being left open for him. I'd been through a process like this last year with Matt Fink and worked through that process with him, provided an open door for him to be back. We would love to have JT on our team, but he's got a personal decision that he's going to make and make the best decision for himself. And I always believe, you work with kids. If you treat them like your adopted sons and be able to work through the process with them, sometimes it works out, sometimes they move on, but you're always there for them. So between myself and JT, we talk each and every week.
So when do you have to make a decision on this front? Or when do you need a decision from him? Because, I know it's just so difficult, man. I mean, you got enough going on, as you point out, with the number of kids you have biologically and adopted, and when this is going to actually happen. But you also need to plan as if this is definitely happening,
Yeah, I'm getting constant communication from him, but that door will always be left open for JT. He's a member of our family. When I sign a kid and he does things the right way like JT has, he's been a great teammate, a great student, a great family member to our organization. He's always going to be granted that opportunity. Now, obviously, we'll look for other options as they come available, but JT is always welcome at USC.
Clay Helton here on the Rich Eisen Show. You said that's trending in the direction of you being able to get these kids on campus and start practicing, I imagine, or something of the like. What's giving you the indication we're trending in that direction?
Well, a couple things. The NCAA came out and obviously is now allowing volunteer workouts on campus across the country. It's going to be up to conferences, it's going to be up to universities based on where they are geographically, their population, what's going on with the virus in their situation. But it was great to hear Governor Newsom come out the other day and be able to say he sees pro sports getting ready to open back up in June. And our university is working tirelessly, as well as all universities across the country are working tirelessly to put safety measures in place to be able to bring students back when it is healthy and safe, and those safety measures are in place. So, I'm very appreciative to Dr. Carol Folt and the Mike Bone. I mean, they're working daylight till dark to put these measures in place that will allow our not only our student athletes but students to come back when it's safe. And but right now there's a lot of positive energy out there that this thing is trending in the right direction. We're very optimistic about the fall season, and I think we're going to get even more clarity as the weeks progress.
Well, I spoke to the head coach of Notre Dame football, who you see across the field every year, and Brian Kelly. He was talking about they're still working on protocols to deliver to parents to say this is what we're going to do when your kids are put on a plane from, I guess, spots, as you point out, from Connecticut all the way to Hawaii. Where are you on that front.
Yeah, so we're working through those safety measures and those protocols, and they're basically would be broken up in phases, and it's also going to, Rich, each place is different because you're going to have to follow the directives of government leadership to local and state and federal. So I think it's really based on where you are at currently with the virus, what geographic you are in. Are you a hot spot or not? Where are you as far as your local and state government? So everybody's going to be different. Meanwhile, universities are working as hard as they can to be able to put those procedures and those safety measures in place. So when we are granted those opportunities to come back onto campus, that we are prepared and ready to have our students back.
Have you become an expert in public health, Clay? In a way that you never thought you'd have to?
Very much so. Just looking at it from a parent's eyes, and to be honest with you, and just like I said, I mean, I truly believe I've got 110 adopted sons, and it's not about the X's and O's right now. Those will come into place when it's time to play a game somewhere down the future. It's more about, making sure that we've provided a safe and healthy environment for them to be able to function in, and that's been my primary worry, and I know our university's primary worry moving forward here. And usually football coaches, I think we're always worried about points and stopping people in the next game, but now it is about those safety measures and being able to, whether it's meet, practice, be together with having 110 men that are on a football team together, and how you get that done. And so that's been more the conversations rather than preparing for maybe a game come in September or October or November, whenever it might be.
Well, what about the first game starting in January? Are you like literally pushing this season all the way? We're hearing about how the loss of revenue would be so catastrophic if there's no football season, just pushing it into the spring. Are you hearing that or preparing for that too right now?
Well, I think we're really optimistic, Rich, to be honest with you, about having a 2020 football season. I don't know exactly what the start date be or what the structure is, but every conversation that I've had, leadership has done. The NCAA leadership, as well as the commissioners and their leadership per each conference, is really working diligently to put together a ton of different structures to be able, from different start dates to different ways the season may run. And we'll see how this goes. I think we're going to have a lot more clarity here in about 6 weeks. Is my judgment. Okay. Hopefully everything keeps trending in the right direction. But I think all of us are really optimistic to be able to have this fall season, and we've got our fingers crossed. We're excited about having the opportunity to be a part of an exciting Alabama game, a great rivalry game like Notre Dame, a 9-game conference schedule, battling for a conference championship and a national title. So we are optimistic in that, and our NCAA leadership and university leadership and conference leadership will determine, where we get to, what that start date is and what that structure is. And for coaches, we're going to focus on taking care of our football team, making sure that they're healthy, they're safe, and they're prepared.
Coach, appreciate the time. Have a great, safe weekend, and we'll catch you down the line, hopefully, with your timing about 4-6 weeks from now, talking about a playing season and a health protocol that we can all follow.
Man, that would be great. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for the time.
You got it. That's Clay Helton, USC football head coach. Kind of sounded like what Brian Kelly said, that, we don't know, but we think it's trending in that direction. Let's hope, man. How's our final poll results over there, Chris? What do you got?
Okay, buddy. Most overrated sports movie. This one is a big W for you, man.
Thank you, sir.
67% say Rudy. Over 3,000 votes.
Is it wrong to say that I don't think that's a win? That's not. You
want it to be higher?
Yeah.
What would have been a satisfactory number for you?
90 to 10, like that. 90 to 10. The fact that there's that there's a 30% plus of the population that says Rudy is more rated properly than Hoosier. Stop with your slow clap. Newton in Richmond, Virginia. Let's give you the last word. What's up, Newton?
Well, Rich, I don't know where these people come from, but there is a difference between something that's entertaining and worth talking about.
Yes, sir.
And
wow.
and let's face it. I mean, Rudy put a twist
that's a little bit false on something that kind of actually happened.
Okay.
And then you've got the creativity of the plot and the script of Hoosiers.
Yes.
And then you compare the lineup. You've got Gene Hackman and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, gosh.
And in the other movie, you've got a Hobbit. What are we talking about? I mean, this would be better if we were talking about the comparison between mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese.
Newton, I appreciate your spite. I appreciate where you're coming from. Thank you for the call. I will say this. Sean Astin's an excellent actor. Charles Dutton is no slouch.
The Rock. He's a rock.
Rock.
Ned Beatty. Ned Beatty.
Father, never been.
Come on,
most
Ned
gorgeous
Beatty.
sight these eyes have ever seen.
Ned Beatty, one of the best actors of his generation. All you got to see is you got to see the end of Network. Ned
First
Beatty's
ever
amazing.
Vince Vaughn movie.
John Favreau. It's an excellent. It's a great cast.
That's right.
Right.
Swingers before Swingers.
Please, pre-Swingers.
Pre-swing.
But when it comes down to it, no thanks. Hard pass. And not enough people agreed with me.
Have you ever watched it, Rich?
What?
I really had to
I have watched
You
it.
actually have watched
I do plan over the next 3 days to fill in the Sandlot blind spot.
Oh, yes.
With the kids.
Yes.
Awesome.
With the kids.
Well done.
But the kids. Next week on NBCSN, we are off Monday, but NBCSN is not. Look at Michael Jordan's 1991 Saturday Night Live hosting it, kicking off a week's worth of sports athlete hosted SNLs from back in the day. Michael, LeBron, and Charles kicks it off on Memorial Day night. And then we're back here Tuesday with Howie Mandel of America's Got Talent, Cody Rhodes, and more. We're back here. Have a safe and healthy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. And for everyone out there who has served and lost somebody, we say thank you. And yes, this will be rectified this weekend.